The meeting to order. I would like to welcome everybody to the Novi Board of Education regular meeting. Today is January 21st, 2021. If we can get a roll call vote of the trustees, Mr. Mena?
Trustee Cook?
Here.
Trustee Hood?
Here.
Trustee Mena is here. Trustee Murphy? Trustee Roney?
Here.
Trustee Ruskin?
Here.
And Trustee Smith?
You gave a thumbs up.
But he's here.
Yeah.
All righty, if we can stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Trustee Roney?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If we can now get an approval of the agenda. Mr. Cook?
Move we approve the agenda as presented.
Recommended by Mr. Cook and supported by Mrs. Murphy. Roll call vote, Mr. Mena?
Trustee Cook?
Yes.
Trustee Hood?
Yes.
Trustee Mena? Yes. Trustee Murphy?
Yes.
Trustee Roney?
Yes.
Trustee Ruskin?
Yes.
Trustee Smith?
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0. Next, we have our first opportunity for comments from the audience related to agenda items. As we are still virtual due to the state mandate from the MDHHS, we have a link online for any public comment for our meetings. We will have a 2-minute time limit. If Mr. Mena can keep track of the time for us and just...
2 minutes?
Yes.
Okay.
And just kind of give a hey to Dr. Matthews. I think you'll have to speak up on that so he can hear you because he's looking at his monitor. Dr. Matthews?
Thank you, Dr. Ruskin. I would like to kind of alert the community that our public comment for board meeting page is typically not active up until 1 hour before the board meeting. If the community wants to communicate with the board, there is a email to all board members link on the Board of Education website that the community can always email all board members during the week. The public comment during the board meeting page is really for public comments to be read during the board meeting. And so the best practice from our legal team has suggested that we would activate it just for the board meeting because it is intended to take the place of people attending the board meeting. So tonight we have 16 comments to be read. The first is from Catherine McGuire. After reading Dr. Matthews' return to 5-day-a-week instruction proposal, I feel confident that the administration is balancing the safety needs of students and staff with the instructional benefits of in-person instruction. One additional suggestion would be to consider the vaccination rate among staff who desire the protection it will bring. As mentioned in the packet, many pre-K through 12 educators have been unable to get the vaccination or even get an appointment due to the high demand, low supply. Thus, the target date of February 17th should be contingent on the ability of the K through 6 grade instructors to have received both shots, particularly with the presence of the new COVID variant in nearby Washtenaw County. We have been very fortunate that many of our students have had the opportunity for in-person learning from the start. The safety measures put in place have allowed this model to work in a safe and effective manner. The hybrid model continues to work for my 7th grader, and I strongly urge the board to listen to the administration and endorse his proposal for a careful, safe return of hybrid students to in-person 5-day-a-week instruction. Second comment is from Beth Johnson. Thank you for your diligence in navigating the school year and keeping Novi students, teachers, and staff safe. I'm excited that you have a recommendation before you with a plan for K-6 hybrid students to return to in-person schools 5 days a week with a February 17th target date. As a parent of a middle school student and 2 high school students, I implore you also to develop a specific plan and target date for hybrid students in grades 7 to 12 to return 5 days a week as well. My kids seem to be resigned to things staying the same way they are for the rest of the school year. They are trying to make the best of it and get through it all. At this point, we are wondering whether they will even be able to go to school full-time in the fall. Please make the return to full-time in-person learning for middle and high school students a priority as well. Please give the 712 kids and their families some hope. Comment 3 is from Chris Holman. I have tried to be pragmatic in advocating for my kids to get back to school full-time, and it's obvious that nothing will change until the administration gets a permission slip from the state to do so. When a board member will not vote to get students back in school because it's not safe for teachers, but will hop on a plane to Florida over break, it's rules for thee, not for me. When a board member isn't worried about educational deficiencies because they can afford tutors multiple times a week for their own children, it is rules for thee, not for me. Stop the hypocrisy and quit operating from a position of fear. Get an actual plan together and get the kids back in school. Comment number 4, Tim Lisowski. At what point will the board finally realize that the damage that is being done to our children by keeping them at home for an entire school year? The damage goes beyond the significantly reduced quality of education they are receiving. Socially, our children are falling behind or simply shutting down. I cannot disagree any more with the statement the quality of their education is remotely comparable to in-person learning, and yet the board, with the exception of Tom Smith, seems to not even acknowledge this fact. Not all households have the ability to pay for personal tutors for their children. The fact is even required furthers how poorly things are going. Making matters worse is the pass, fail, and no finals. This clearly shows just how bad the current setup is and how you are failing our children. If the quality of education was so good, why would they resort to such dumbed down measures? You were elected to take action, not to sit on the sidelines. You were elected to lead, not to passively watch. You were elected to take our schools to the next level, not set us back years. You were elected to make a difference, not be indifferent. You were elected to provide the best education available to our children, not have them fall behind educationally and socially. Dr. Matthews speaks of keeping 712 at home due to the student body size when compared to the elementary schools. But the Novi Middle School and Novi High School are both significantly larger in size than elementary schools. There are more students, but there is a lot more physical space. With only 51% of Novi High School students opting for in-person, this advantage of more room should make it easy. The board has yet to even challenge the superintendent to provide a viable plan. He works for you and you work for us. Do the right thing. Demand in-person learning for all students. I built my home in Novi because of the impeccable schools, best in the state, hands down. The ineffectiveness and the sedentary approach by this current board and superintendent is making me regret that decision. Novi is falling woefully behind other districts. Is that what a leader does? Watch others and not even have the courage to follow. Multiple school districts have been in person learning 4 to 5 days a week for months. Other districts are moving toward that same path. For example, Troy High School starts 4 days in
Time,
person.
Dr. Matthews.
Thank you. The next comment is from Sharon Bodine. The school board should not decide in January that grades 7-12 will remain hybrid for the entire second semester. We do not know what the conditions will be like even 2 months from now, nor do we know what the impact of the vaccine will have on cases. Our students have been robbed of a normal education for 10 months currently. A teacher in the hybrid program mentioned that they have only covered 30% of the material so far. Is this true? How will that be addressed, and how is that ever made up at the current pace? How is the content in science and math ever made up? Our hybrid students need to be back in school 5 days a week as quickly as possible. We need to leave this option open rather than have the decision made for the entire semester. Comment 6. Jasmita Patel. Elementary school kids are falling behind due to 3 days at home schooling. Young kids need to learn in person, and no amount spent on Zoom can replace learning in person. My son, who is 5 now, needs glasses due to the amount of time spent on iPad for Zoom and doing homework. Please open up schools 5 days a week. Comment 7. Allison Hartmus. Hello, my name is Allison Hartmus, and I'm a first grade teacher at Parkview Elementary School. I am currently teaching in the hybrid model, and I am most comfortable with this form of teaching. I feel safe in the classroom and well connected to all students. I'm extremely against bringing classes to full size for 5 days a week instruction at this point, strictly due to safety and health issues. I've been trying to get a vaccination appointment since they became available to teachers, but it has been nearly impossible since the time slots fill up so quickly. Who knows when I or many of my colleagues will finally have the opportunity to be vaccinated. It is not safe enough for us to return to full class sizes yet. I was very worried about this, so I requested to teach virtually second semester. My request was not granted, and I am forced to stay hybrid. I shouldn't have to beg for my life and health to be taken seriously, but here I am. Please do not seriously consider coming back to full class sizes yet. It is unsafe for the teachers and students. Comment 8. Kristen Hoy. Good evening, NCSD School Board and Administration. Looking over the packet for tonight's board meeting, I am confused about item number 4 on the very last page where Dr. Matthews has written 712 students would stay in virtual because of their size for the rest of the semester. And as an aside, Mr. Mena, just for a moment, that was an error and we'll address that when we get to it. I thought 712 hybrid students are beginning second semester with 2 days per week in-person instruction hybrid plan. What does Dr. Matthews mean by 712 students would stay in virtual? I definitely support K6 going back 5 days in person before 712. And I'm also definitely support 712 going in person only 2 days per week for the near future. Socially distancing is critical for us to maintain consistency in education for 712. With students changing classrooms every hour, just one positive case without social distancing potentially quarantines over 30 students and perhaps some teachers. Please leave 712 at 2 days per week in-person instruction so we may continue to keep the middle and high schools open and provide consistent instruction. I also have 2 shout outs tonight. Thank you to Dr. Matthews for providing update emails 2 times per week. It really is helpful to understand what's happening in the district. My second shout out is to both the board and administration for recognizing the efforts of the Novi High School girls swim and dive team at states this past weekend. After 2 months of on again, off again scheduling the state meet, the girls swam fast and dove well, earning 7th place in the state. We could all learn a thing or two about resilience from these student athletes. Thank you for all that you do. Comment 9. Sharon Trumpy. Hello, my name is Sharon Trumpy, and I'm a member of the Novi Racial Awareness, Accountability, and Action. In July, we presented the Board of Education and Administration with a petition signed by nearly 600 students, alumni, teachers, and community members. We ask that the district take a number of steps to ensure that our schools are safe, supportive, and equitable environments for all, and that a commitment to anti-racism is embedded in the culture of NCSD. Tonight, I would like to thank Dr. R.J. Weber and Darby Hoppenstedt for meeting with me and the Interfaith Council for Peace and Justice to begin developing a professional development opportunity for our teachers to learn how to intervene when they witness acts of racism or discrimination. This is just the first in what I hope and trust will be an ongoing commitment to advancing cultural competence in NCSD. I would like to thank Trustee Tom Smith and the Novi Educational Foundation for advancing equity grant money, which will make intervention training possible. The diversity of our school district is a source of great pride, but diversity is only a beginning. Our common goal should be equity, that all in our district are seen, heard, and empowered to share the full beauty of that diversity. If we continue to work together, I am confident that we can make great strides in reaching the goals set out in the petition. Thank you. Comment 10. Matthew Heinz. Dear Board of Education, I hope you're all doing well and thank you for your time and service. We are now entering into a time of hope with the COVID vaccine being administered to frontline workers, including educators. While we are not out of the woods yet, we are making true progress, and the idea of normal does not seem so abstract anymore. With the governor's recent announcement to encourage schools to develop plans to return to the classroom, I was curious about what the plans were for Novi. I have 2 daughters, kindergarten and 3rd grade, that are currently learning virtually, but if conditions significantly improve, it would be very appropriate for all students to return to the classroom. I fully understand that the December survey stated that virtual students would remain virtual for the rest of the year. However, I highly attest that it would be inequitable and unjust to permit hybrid students to return to the classroom full-time, but not virtual students. All of you would agree that learning virtually does not replace in-classroom instruction. And while the virtual teachers are doing an incredible job, especially the younger students can make so much more growth by returning to school when things are safe. As the board develops and adjusts the plan to return back to the classroom, I strongly encourage you to think of the needs of all the children, especially the younger grades, K1, that are most impacted by virtual learning. I fully understand that I am just one voice, but please know that I am not alone with this thinking. Please let parents know what we need to do to make sure the educational opportunities are equal for all students. Thank you. Comment number 11, Panita Thurman. Dr. Matthews, Dr. Ruskin, and Board of Education and Board of Trustees. My name is Panita Thurman, and I am a parent of 3 children in Novi schools over the past 10 years, currently a 9th grader, a 7th grader, and a 4th grader. I'm writing tonight both as an invested parent and a member of the NRAAA, pronounced NARA, the community group that is formed in response to interest and need to expand racial awareness, accountability, and action in Novi. NARA shared a petition this summer to the board and administration signed by almost 600 community members, students, and alumni with specific areas of improvement around racial equity and justice. With all that is on this board and district's plate, I'm glad to see that there is also a discussion tonight about the district's work around diversity, equity, and inclusion. This is a critical and timely conversation to ensure that this important institution of learning is focused on ensuring the success and support of all students and staff, and for ensuring that systemic racial inequity and bias are confronted and addressed. I'm proud of the work that this district has done and grateful that there is awareness and commitment to do more. I also wanted to say thank you to Dr. Matthews, Dr. Ruskin, and Dr. Kinzer, who responded to my outreach asking for increased efforts by the district to increase teacher and leader diversity. For my non-Black children, it is important to me that we expand the diversity of our teaching staff to better represent our community, and the world around us. This is one of the areas specifically called out in the community petition. I had the opportunity to meet with Dr. Kinzer earlier today and appreciate the ideas and energy he has to diversify our educator talent. It was terrific to have the opportunity to share ideas and resources and to learn more about his interest and listen to current teachers of color, their experience, and to solicit their input on how to expand efforts to recruit more teachers of color. I'm grateful for Dr. Kinzer's commitment to relentlessly tackle an issue that plagues many districts in our state, to increase teacher diversity, and his leadership to name this as a priority worthy of the district's strategic plan. I look forward to tonight's discussion and thank you for your leadership. Comment 12, Mike Lubin. Good evening. I'm writing this at the 11th hour because I feel compelled to let you know that we are still out here and we are still extremely disappointed in how this year is going and will continue to go for our kids. I'm not writing because I think it will compel you to change anything, because I know it won't. The hybrid solution at the high school level is still terrible and you haven't done anything to change it. Kids still think it's a joke, even if you don't. They don't need to get good grades, but can cheat to do so if they want. Colleges are accepting them in because they know it's easier to take the money than to try to figure out who's actually been challenged with something resembling a normal year, although plenty of schools have done it different than Novi. Our kids have been cheated out of over 25% of their high school experience, and the administration and the board have allowed it. In the end, they'll be just fine, although as time goes on and they realize that they have been in the hands of, if they have been in the hands of competent leaders, it didn't have to be this way. If we had seen even one of you stand up to challenge that anything that had come down from DHS and the governor, this would have been easier to take. But none of you publicly fought to get our kids back in school or stood up when sports were canceled. Dr. Matthews put a nice note out about how much athletics means when there was no chance his words would be controversial, but it sure would have been more impact if he could have said that back in November when his entire student body had to stop playing. I'm sad for what you've done. Only you know why you made the decisions you made. I hope you can live with them. Comment 13, Lisa Seal. Good evening. I'm writing once again to represent the high school students and families who have chosen the hybrid option. My understanding is half of the high school students will be hybrid for second semester. Half of your student population feels being in school is needed regardless of the risk. Half of your student population chose hybrid, knowing that the goal is to eventually attend 5 days a week. The lack of a plan for the return to 5 days a week at this point in the year is simply due to poor leadership. We have asked, begged, and pleaded with the board and the administration to provide a plan of how we will return. The results of these pleadings have been lacking, to say the least. The administration continues to provide nothing but the reasons why this would be difficult and risky. I am saddened by our school leadership team, who proved to be negative, uninventive, and lack any sort of strategic planning. Where is the concern for the students? Who on our administrative staff is worried about teen suicide rates escalating? Which of you is distraught over the rampant cheating that is taking place due to lack of classroom time? When will one of you stand up for the student who is desperate for the social interactions that come with being in school? How will you explain the lack of being able to compete for college admissions against a student who had the opportunity to go to school in person full-time because they simply lived in another school district? We require a plan to return to 5 days in-person school. Your students need this. This is your duty. Please answer it. Comment 14, Michelle King. I'm at a loss for words to combat the long list of reasons the Novi administration uses to keep our kids out of school. It sure would be a breath of fresh air to hear one administrator or staff member stand up on behalf of the students and say it's time for kids to be back in school. This has gone on for too long and way past the point of healthy for our students. We continue to use data that may not even be correct. Need for 6-foot social distancing, even though the CDC declared with masks it didn't need to be this far. Lack of scientific data that school-age kids are even spreaders as originally believed. The truth is there is no definitive science to justify keeping our kids out of school for this extended amount of time. Most other schools in our area are increasing instructional days at the beginning of the semester. Our newly elected president has said schools need to be back in session. The CDC stated kids should be back in school, and our governor has okayed school being back face-to-face. What is it going to take for Novi to stop finding reasons why not to send students back to school and start saying, how can we get kids back to school and how quickly? Parents need and deserve the answers we have asked for all year long. I urge you to please stand up and be the one to make the difference for our kids. They so desperately need a change, and they need it now. They have spent a year in their bedrooms with little or no instruction. This is so dangerous and will permanently affect their academic success, mental well-being, and the deplorable work ethics they have formed will both serve them well. They won't be able to cheat their way through college like they have Novi High School, or be given a chance to receive a check mark when they are failing. How many children have to be failing to tell you this isn't working? Enough is enough. Show your passion for education, the mental well-being of our children, and stand up for the children you have been elected as board members and paying as administrators to represent. Comment 15. Kevin Wilkinson. To Dr. Matthews and the Novi Board of Education. It's Karen Wilkinson. My name is Karen Wilkinson, and I'm a school social worker at Parkview. I'm writing to express my surprise and concern about the recommendation to vote on February 4th for K-6 students to return to school for 5 days in person starting February 17th. As a social worker, I've been working with virtual and hybrid students since the start of the year, working in the building 4 days a week. Every single day I enter classrooms in each grade as part of my role. This year I am spending the most time in kindergarten and first grade classrooms. I've seen how teachers have spread desks out to maintain 6-foot distance while also trying to seat students strategically and allow for movement and flexible seating. Seeing the physical spaces and layouts of these classrooms as they currently are, it is very concerning to me that the 6-foot social distance would not be able to be maintained if all hybrid students are brought back at once. My main concern for this is the safety of students and staff who work closely with the students in their classrooms. I'm also concerned about the feelings of safety, stress, and concern that classroom teachers may experience about social distancing in their classrooms with this recommendation to bring all students back. I have seen how often teachers need to remind students about wearing masks appropriately and staying 6 feet apart, and can only imagine how those reminders will increase with more students in the physical classroom at the same time. It also concerns me that teachers may carry an even greater level of worry or concern while also expecting them to establish norms, routines, and relationships with students who have previously not been in physical classroom together. I'm also concerned and disappointed about the lack of staff voice in this process and decision-making about resuming 5 days in person for K-6. As a district that prides itself on honoring student voice, it is disappointing to feel like there is not the same value on staff voice in decisions as big and difficult as these. I'm also concerned that the February 17th date. I know that many educators will not have received their second dose of vaccine by then, nor will there have been a few weeks after receiving the final dose for the full body to develop immunity. Finally, I'm wondering why the metrics proposed in tonight's meeting are different from the ones that were proposed on January 7th meeting. One of the indicators for tonight is that cases per 10,000 within NCSD were at 30 or below for
Time,
3
Dr.
consecutive
Matthews.
Thank you. Comment 16. Katie Constantine. My name is Katie, and I'm a mom to a 5th grader at Meadows and a 3rd grader at Deerfield. The exhausted mom in me who is tired of the mess in her house from kids constantly being home, who is over listening to arguments over Minecraft and feels defeated by 3rd grade Common Core math, would love nothing more than for kids to be back 5 days a week. I'm sure we are all over this, and kids need school. Hybrid is working in its own way, and teachers are doing a fantastic job, but no, it's not like 5 days a week. And you know what? For now, I can accept that it's different because I understand why it has to be that way. I'm a regular volunteer when we aren't in a pandemic and have been lucky and privileged to know many of the wonderful staff members that have taught and loved my babies in the last few years. I care about these people and I want them to be safe. If the goal is to combine A-B hybrid groups, how can this board and the district ensure that every hybrid teacher and every staff member who has to be in the buildings has a vaccine? There aren't enough vaccines to go around and the waiting list is long, not to mention there's a new strand variant of COVID now. We need to be careful. We can't go to restaurants and we can't gather in large numbers, so how can schools be safe for everyone? Kids don't social distance as it is, no matter how much we grown-ups Try to make them do it. So how can we expect to social distance in a classroom with double the amount of kids? I want to send my kids back every day so badly, but not at the risk of the health of so many people. If there is a safe way to do this, by all means go for it, but please make your decision based on the health and safety of everyone involved. Finally, I want to change the subject and just say how grateful I am and always will be for our staff and teachers. You are amazing, brave, wonderful, brilliant people, and we are so very lucky to have all of you. Your hard work, love, and dedication has not gone unnoticed. Thank you for everything, and I believe in each and every one of you. And the last comment, comment 17, Nicole Cromwell. I applaud the work you have done in these difficult times. I hope that you will continue to support the hybrid model for our high school. With more cases among students since winter break, it is wrong time to bring all students back together. There's not enough space to appropriately distance the kids, especially during lunchtime when the possibility of spreading the virus increases due to masks being removed. Additionally, even if teachers are able to be vaccinated, studies have not yet conclusively shown that vaccinated individuals do not spread coronavirus. It is not right to ask teachers to risk their own health or that of their families by exposing them unnecessarily to COVID-19. Thank you for your time and service. And those are the comments this evening, Dr. Ruskin.
Thank you, Dr. Matthews. We will move on to our next item on the agenda, which is our consent agenda items. It is the approval of the minutes from the last regular meeting and the work session. So if I can get a recommendation, Mrs. Murphy?
The Novi Community School District Board of Education approve the consent items as presented.
I'll support.
By Mrs. Murphy and supported by Mrs. Roney. Mr. Mena, if we can get a roll call vote, please.
Trustee Cook,
Yes.
Trustee Hood,
Yes.
Trustee Mena, yes. Trustee Murphy,
Yes.
Trustee Roney,
Yes.
Trustee Ruskin,
Yes.
Trustee Smith,
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0. We'll move on to our 4 action items this evening. Our first one being the personnel report. Dr. Matthews.
Thank you, Dr. Ruskin, and I will turn to Dr. Kinzer.
Thank you, Dr. Matthews. We have a brief report this evening. We have one new hire. It is Emily Bazzini, K4 academic interventionist, and one leave of absence, Timothy Stotler. This is a year 1 health-related leave of absence.
Thank you, Dr. Kinzer. If I can get a recommendation. Mr. Cook?
I recommend that the Novi Community School District Board of Education adopts the personnel report recommendations as presented.
support,
Recommended by Mr. Cook and supported by Mr. Mena. Any questions or discussion items on this? Mr. Smith?
A quick question for Dr. Kinzer. I was expecting to see an additional first grade teacher hire at Deerfield. Did that happen or that doesn't need to get voted on?
So those positions, we have added some positions. However, they are really just temporary positions for this year. They're beginning as district subs and transitioning into temporary hires with no permanent employment status in the district. So those don't go for board approval.
I thought that was a nice hire though in Deerfield.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you then. That was
You're
my-
welcome.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, hearing none, we are ready for a roll call vote. Mr. Mena?
Trustee Cook,
Yes.
Trustee Hood,
Yes.
Trustee Mena, yes. Trustee Murphy,
Yes.
Trustee Roney,
Yes.
Trustee Ruskin,
Yes.
and Trustee Smith.
Yes.
0. Next, we will move on to our second action item, which is the professional auditing services. Dr. Matthews.
Thank you, Dr. Ruskin. On November 12, 2020, we received a proposal for a contract extension with Plant Moran. The agreement is to provide external independent auditing services, beginning with the audit of the financial statements for the fiscal years ending June 30th, 2021, 2022, and 2023. The estimated fee for service for basic financial statement and federal program audits is $46,250 per year, which represents a 4% increase and will remain fixed for the duration of the extension. The current contract expired at the conclusion of the June 30th, 2020 audit. Plant Moran has performed auditing services for the district since 2012. It is recommended that Plant Moran be awarded a 3-year extension for professional audit services. Plant Moran is a regional accounting firm headquartered in Southfield, Michigan, with a total of 21 U.S. offices. They serve over 200 school districts, more than any other CPA firm in Michigan. Clients include 13 of the 15 largest school districts in Michigan, 150 staff members that receive specialized school district training, received a pass rating on the most recent peer review, affiliated with MSBO, ASBO, MICPA, MASB, MASA, and MDE. Plant Moran annually offers a school law and finance seminar for school board members and administrators. This year's school law and finance seminar will take place on January 23rd and February 6th. So we would recommend that you would approve the extension of the audit services for Plant Moran for the next 3 years.
Thank you, Dr. Matthews. Mr. Mena?
Yeah, I move that the extension for professional audit services be awarded to Plant Moran in the amount of $46,250 annually for the fiscal years ending June 30th, 2021, 2022, and 2023.
Support.
Recommended by Mr. Mena and supported by Mrs. Roney. Any questions or conversation on this? Okay, seeing none, I know we had the opportunity to discuss this at our last meeting, so it looks like we're ready for a roll call vote. Mr. Mena?
Trustee Cook,
Yes.
Trustee Hood,
Yes.
Trustee Mena, yes. Trustee Murphy,
Yes.
Trustee Roney,
Yes.
Trustee Ruskin,
Yes.
and Trustee Smith.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0. Thank you to Mr. McIntyre and your team for working with auditors every year and the continued arrangement we'll have here with Plant Moran. Next, we will have our third action item, which is the Walsh College property purchase. Dr. Matthews.
Thank you, Dr. Ruskin. As part of the new Meadows construction, 2 important district programs need to be relocated for up to 2 school years. The Novi Adult Transition Center, NATC, which provides service to students aged 18 to 26 who are still working on their individual educational plan goals, and the Novi Career Prep Alternative Education and Adult Education Program, which provides an alternative high school experience for traditionally aged students, adult high school completion and GED programs, and adult English as a second language. Both need to be relocated because of the new Meadows construction. Renting space for them is not an allowable bond expense, so that cost would come from the general fund. A second bondable option of bringing portable buildings on site would cost approximately $1 million. The third option presented itself to the district when Plant Moran Cressa identified that Walsh College was for sale and could be purchased and repurposed for district programs, including temporary or permanent homes for the Novi Adult Transition Program and Novi Career Prep Alternative Education and Adult Education. A closed session permitted by law to discuss real estate purchases occurred at the board meeting on November 19th. After that meeting, the district entered into a 60-day due diligence period for the Walsh College property purchase. District administration, the Capital Projects Committee, Plant Moran Cressa, and the project team have been working closely in developing potential program and space utilization options for the Walsh building, 6th grade house, and the high school. And at an open work session on January 14th, 2021, the Novi Community School District Board of Education discussed the presentation deck prepared by the project team that outlines our recommendation to date. This comes back to the board tonight for approval. And so our recommendation would be that the board would approve the purchase and repurposing of Walsh College for district programs, including the temporary or permanent homes for Novi Adult Transition Program and Novi Career Prep, Alternative Education and Adult Education, and you would delegate to the superintendent or his designee the authority to execute the appropriate contracts and legal documents. We've reviewed this with our project team for the last 2 months. We've reviewed this with the board and the Capital Projects Committee on several occasions, and we reviewed this last week at our work session with the board. As you know, with the new Meadows, we have to relocate those 2 programs. We believe that this is a good temporary home. It will become the permanent home for Career Prep and the Alternative and Adult Education Program. It also provides robotic space, a full practice field for both the high school, middle school, and elementary programs. It also creates the opportunity for us to repurpose the 6th grade house when the new Meadows is completed for our special education center. And then finally, there is a plan to repurpose some of the space at the back of the high school for our CTE programs, to expand and enhance those programs, including bringing some robots and potentially some certification in those robots to the high school after this is completed. And so we've done all our due diligence. Mike Dragoo and his maintenance staff have reviewed the building. We've done all of our surveys of the building. We believe we have the financing in order. What we need tonight from the board is approval to move forward with this purchase, and that you would delegate to the superintendent or my designee the authority to execute those contracts and legal documents. If you do have questions, we have Mr. McIntyre, Dr. Kinzer, and I to answer some questions. And if there are, we need to act on this because our 60-day period is up as of tonight, and we need to communicate to Walsh our intentions. We have let them know that we believe this will move forward, but if it does not tonight, we need to let Walsh know that as well. And so we would ask the board to approve this recommendation this evening.
Thank you, Dr. Matthews. Mr. Cook?
Yeah, I'll make a recommendation, but I'm going to change it just a little bit. We are not buying Walsh College. We are buying a Walsh College property.
Good point, Mr. Cook.
Okay. I move that the Novi Community School District Board of Education approves the purchase and repurposing of the Walsh College property for the district's programs, including temporary or permanent homes for the Novi Adult Transition Program and Novi Career Prep, Alternative Education, and Adult Education, and delegates the superintendent and his designee the authority to execute the appropriate contracts and legal documents.
Support.
Dr. Ruskin, we cannot hear you.
Okay. Can you hear me now? There we
Yes,
go.
can.
Recommended by Mr. Cook. Thank you, Mr. Cook, for that, and supported by Mr. Mena. Any questions or further discussion? I know that we had a lot of discussion on this, and for those watching who have not been able to previously see any of the work sessions or the conversations on this, I encourage you to look through the presentation that is embedded in tonight's agenda packet. Mr. Cook, please.
I just want to make sure that in the next minutes that recommendation gets updated too. So
Yes.
Phyllis waving her hand. She's got it. Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Okay. Seeing none, I believe that we're ready for a roll call vote. Mr. Mena?
Trustee Cook,
Yes.
Trustee Hood,
Yeah.
Trustee Mena with a big yes, Trustee Murphy,
Yes.
Trustee Roney,
Yes.
Trustee Ruskin,
Yes.
and Trustee Smith.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0. I want to thank the team and Capital Projects Committee and everybody who worked on this. I think it's a great opportunity, and we look forward to this evolving. So next, we have our last and final action item. It is the extended COVID-19 learning plan reconfirmation.
Thank you, Dr. Ruskin. There are two pieces tonight. The first is this extended COVID-19 learning plan reconfirmation. We will have an additional discussion item about some metrics for potentially returning students to a more full-time situation. And so I will read through this recommendation and then kind of explain the status of why we make this recommendation tonight. Each month, the Novi Community School District Board of Education is required to reconfirm our extended COVID-19 learning plan. The legislation requires the district report out on key metrics. The key metrics are reported by the Oakland County Health Division each week. Among the key indicators reported are the following: the 7-day average of daily cases and counts per day since school began on September 8th. And so I give you a summary of that through last Monday. The daily cases per zip code numbers since September 8th, and I give you a summary of that as well through last Monday. The Oakland County Health Division also tracks data by school district boundary. They report the data as cases in the district per 10,000 residents, and so I provide that data for you since August, when we started these conversations about what this school year would look like. Also reported is a percent positive on COVID-19 tests, and I show that to you as well. On December 17th, 2020, the Novi Community School District Board of Education approved the following extended COVID-19 learning plan recommendation. Through at least January 22nd, 2021, the end of first semester, a hybrid blend of in-person and virtual instruction with strict adherence to clear safety protocols. Students will attend in-person school 2 days a week, virtual experience on Wednesday, and be provided at-home experiences 2 days a week. Virtual online instruction, an online virtual learning program for students, and continued focus on improving both our hybrid and our virtual learning program. If because of quarantine, classrooms cannot be appropriately staffed, individual classrooms, individual schools could go virtual until appropriate staffing levels can be maintained. Without our teachers, the human capital, schools cannot operate effectively. Beginning January 25th, 2020, which is this coming Monday, virtual, a continuation of the virtual plan that has been in effect since September 8th, 2020. Students attend school remotely 5 days a week following the regular school schedule. Wednesdays will continue to have a modified schedule to allow teachers 90 minutes of collaborative time. In-person beginning as hybrid. In-person instruction would continue in a hybrid format to ensure safety measures, including the use of social distance. Hybrid would utilize a variety of instructional strategies, such as the in-person instruction, at-home lessons, or virtual instruction. Work would continue to look for opportunities to improve the hybrid experience. Improvements that individual teachers discover and utilize would be shared with all teachers. Hybrid classes may take on a variety of forms, as certain disciplines utilize formats that work in a subject area. For example, if a science class could find a way to make Zooming in during home days work, that could be utilized by all similar science classes. It's anticipated that the current structure of 2 days in person, either hybrid A, Monday, Thursday, or hybrid B, Tuesday, Friday, a Wednesday virtual day with a modified schedule, and at-home assignments and activities for at-home days would continue. But it might be possible that the structure could change if other beneficial approaches could be implemented. Hybrid could move to 5 days in person if certain conditions are met that improve safety for both students and staff. At-risk students would continue to be provided with additional support as determined by our district team in consultation with parents. Choices made for second semester will continue the entire second semester through June 2021 to provide continuity in the learning experience for both students and teachers. Virtual students would stay virtual for the entire second semester. In-person students would stay in person for the entire second semester. Any changes in plan to second semester would potentially result in changes in teachers or schedules for all students. We'll work to avoid changes as much as possible, but it is inevitable that changes in both teacher and schedules will occur for some students. Parents will be asked again to recommit for second semester by December 11th to either virtual or in-person learning for second semester beginning January 25th. On January 13th, 2021, the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services issued new guidance. The document, entitled State of Michigan Guidelines for Operating Schools Safely, has a section on safety protocols. The Michigan Department of Health and Human Services states on spacing and movement: maintain 6 feet of distance at all times. In instructional settings, space desks 6 feet apart, making creative use of all school spaces, gymnasiums, cafeterias, multi-purpose rooms. It goes on to say if physical distancing of 6 feet cannot be maintained in instructional settings with an in-person approach, schools should consider alternative strategies to reduce student density. This may include the use of a hybrid schedule that allows students to maintain 6 feet of distance and attend in-person school for at least half time. Finally, it says if schools districts nonetheless proceed with in-person learning, at a minimum, it should maintain minimum seating distance of 3 feet in classrooms, consider the feasibility of installing barriers, partitions for additional risk mitigation, ensure that when students are eating at lunch with masks off, they maintain 6 feet of physical distance to the extent possible. Class sizes should be kept to the level afforded by the spacing guidance listed above. We have maintained spacing this year, and at the beginning of second semester, we will continue to do that. In December 2020, parents were given a survey, and those parents who wanted to change were asked to make a commitment for second semester. Those commitments have been used to create our second semester schedule. That schedule will be implemented on Monday, January 25th, 2021, which is the Monday coming up. Tonight, the administration would recommend that the Board of Education reconfirm the decision made in December to start second semester with the hybrid and virtual options. As we continue to examine metrics, it is anticipated that we would find a way to bring our hybrid students back to school full time. It may be wise to separate K4 or K6 groups from the 7-12 students. And so tonight, our recommendation would be that you would reconfirm that the Novi Community School District will start second semester beginning January 25th with both a hybrid and a virtual option for parents and students, and that we continue to examine how to bring back hybrid students to a 5-day in-person school week. And we will have a discussion later on in our meeting tonight about those metrics of looking at trying to figure out if we can bring our hybrid students back 5 days a week. But we ask in December for parents to make that commitment, and we would ask the board to reconfirm that commitment tonight so that we can start second semester, which starts Monday, with the virtual and hybrid options, and then that we would have the opportunity to explore later on in this meeting a conversation about how to bring back students 5 days a week. So tonight, the recommendation would be to reconfirm what the board decided in December to begin second semester with both hybrid and virtual options. And that's our recommendation for this reconfirmation of the extended COVID-19 learning plan tonight, Dr. Ruskin.
Thank you, Dr. Matthews. If I can get a recommendation. Mrs. Hood?
Yeah, I move that the Novi Community School District Board of Education reconfirm that the Novi Community School District will start second semester beginning January 25th, 2021, with both a hybrid and a virtual option for parents and students, and that we continue to examine how to bring back hybrid students to a 5-day in-person school week.
Do we have support?
I'll support.
Recommended by Mrs. Hood and supported by Mrs. Murphy. All right, so I will open up the discussion for anyone who has any specific questions, comments, feedback, concerns. Mr. Cook?
Yeah, Dr. Matthews, on the guidelines that recently came out, one of your bullet points, the first set of bullet points says maintain 6 feet of distance at all times. But the second set of bullet points, the first one is maintain a minimum seated distance of 3 feet in the classroom. Is that because our notes here are shortened? Is there a caveat to that, or will they allow the 3-foot seating distance?
The recommendation is 6 foot, but if districts can't do that, then the recommendation would be that 3 foot. And we'll talk about that a little more as we get into the metrics conversation later on. But their first recommendation really is the 6 foot, with an understanding that some districts can't do that, and so they did allow for that 3 foot distance.
Is that with the inclusion of barriers, or
they don't require barriers. They say that they would recommend them, although our own research into barriers is that they just fit on the desk themselves typically, and so students actually sit behind the desk, and so that barrier is really not all that effective because it's not really a barrier that extends past the desk. So it doesn't really affect the students to the side. And so while many districts have used barriers, it doesn't appear that they're as effective as people would lead you to believe.
But the main thing is we're maintaining a 6 foot distance. We're, because we're able to, and with a reduced reduced density of students. Okay.
Correct.
Thank you, Mr. Cook. Mr. Mena?
Dr. Matthews, so one of the main reasons, again, as was just discussed, that we're keeping kids out of school is because we can't guarantee 6 foot social distancing. So what is your response then to a lot of the comments that I've been receiving from both parents and not parents, but students and some teachers that in reality what's happening at the school is while most students are really doing a great job with masking up, realistically, the social distancing, especially at the high school, has pretty much been ignored.
You know, I visit the schools every month, and so I've been in classrooms and I have seen both experiences. I've seen classrooms in which 6 feet distance is well maintained. I've also been in classrooms where the 6 feet distance is not well maintained. You know, our direction is to have 6 feet of social distance. We've reduced the number of students in classrooms. Um, uh, it waxes and wanes over the schools and over individual classrooms. But our goal really has been to maintain that 6 feet of social distance. You know, does it happen all the time? It does not. Does it happen a lot? I think it does. And so, you know, the recommendation is from the MDHHS is that is the kind of the gold standard, and that's what we've been trying to operate under since September 8th. But does it happen all of the time? You know, I can't say that it does, but I do believe it happens a lot.
Mr. Mena?
And, yeah, and so from time to time, you do a nice job sending out COVID updates. I'm sure like they're going out to community members as well. Have we had any cases reported yet where folks have actually gotten COVID from well, let's say from one student or another, or teachers from students? Because I've never gotten the impression that that has happened yet, based on the responses that the emails that you've been sending out.
We had our first case that we think was attributable to in-school spread this week. It was between two students who were less than 6 feet apart. And we believe that the evidence that our school nurse was able to uncover strongly suggests that the two cases were a result of them being close together in school. But that is the only case that we have found in school. All the other cases that I've reported out throughout the year, we believe have been a result of outside exposure. But because we have been socially distanced, as we do our contact tracing, we have not found that we need to quarantine other students in the classroom, because we have maintained that social distance with teachers and with students.
Thank you, Mr. Mena. Thank you, Dr. Matthews. I think that I'll go ahead and then I'll ask if anyone else has a comment. So I'm personally going to support this as a matter of not being apathetic, as I've maybe been accused in some current emails and public comment, but because this is Monday and this is what we agreed upon at our last conversation, I think that we will certainly have opportunity to have further discussion about our plan and where we're moving and in what direction we're moving in our information and discussion during the COVID metrics. So I think that that is an important time to share kind of my concerns or my thoughts on the data and what I envision as we all try to reach our common goal. One thing I would like to ask Dr. Matthews is, we heard in a couple comments and emails we received some conversation and discussion about cheating. And I think that that's something that I would really love for the administrative team to talk about and to look into. I don't think that's just specific to Novi. I don't think it's specific to our hybrid. I think it's specific to kind of the world education finds itself in right now, whether they're doing virtual learning, whether they have parents helping, whether they're working with siblings, whether they're looking at their notes. Tests are being taken virtually and hybrid and in school. So I just implore the administrative team to kind of investigate that and have a conversation amongst yourselves regarding that.
Yep, we certainly can. And I would turn to Dr. Weber, who I think has a comment on that issue tonight.
Thank you for bringing that up, Ms. Ruskin. And I appreciate the fact that people have taken some pretty thinly veiled shots at you personally. I appreciate your decorum, actually. What I would ask for in something like that request would be if the parents who have specific examples of that cheating or how it might be occurring or where they're seeing it could share that with me personally. You can always feel free to call me at 248-449-1202 or email me. That would certainly help our administrative team be able to bear down on that. When people put simple general statements out, unfortunately, that makes it really difficult for us to drill down to. The fact is, we do give a student survey every year. We've done that for 4 years, and that includes issues of diversity, equity, inclusion, but it also includes student agency. And it is a sad statement to report that many of our high school students prior to this pandemic admitted to cheating in some way, shape, or form, the children of our community. I would say that in conversations with students around that, what I have found is that it really becomes not a moral or ethical conversation when you're talking with these students. It's the fact that many of them are often up till 1, 2 o'clock in the morning trying to study, get things together, and they make compromises and they make some bad choices in those moments. I do know, I'm really grateful Elena Brown is on this call actually, and Sarah Lepart, which you're going to hear from shortly. But actually, Elena and I have had many conversations about this very fact, and academic integrity is very important, especially to our high school staff. So thank you for that, President Ruskin. I would be happy to follow up on that for you. But what I would humbly ask from the parents who are talking about this rampant nature of cheating, if they could please provide some examples in some way, shape, or form for me to follow up on. Not asking for names or anything like that, but it will certainly help. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Weber. I appreciate you. Any other comments or questions regarding this recommendation on the floor? Okay.
I'm sorry.
Mrs. Murphy, please.
Thanks. There's some other comments too about how many other districts and stuff are going back. I know Steve, you provided some additional information for us. Could you maybe speak to that? I know the Troy School was one that came up at the discussion, and certainly looking at how other, and if this is for the metrics part of the discussion, I don't really know where it fits. It seems like it's both. So if you wouldn't mind addressing that.
Sure, I can address that. Certainly within Oakland County, there's a wide range of district choices. Berkeley, for example, is going to start 5 days a week with a hybrid plan on February 1st for their elementary students. Middle school will start a hybrid plan February 8th, and the high school will start their hybrid plan on February 22nd in Berkeley. Birmingham currently has a hybrid plan for all of their K-12 students, and that's what they can have. As I talked to their superintendent today, that's what they plan on running for the foreseeable future. Bloomfield Hills is in a hybrid model, and they are for K-8. Their secondary students are going to do an AB hybrid schedule as well. Clarkston returned to face-to-face learning on January 19th. For their K-5 and 6-12 students. There may be some hybrid things happening as I spoke to the superintendent today, depending on COVID trends and those kinds of things. Farmington, spoke to their interim superintendent today, is likely to stay hybrid all year long. Ferndale is currently all virtual and does not have a planned start date back. Huron Valley, they're pre-K through 12 or 4 days a week. They kind of continue to monitor the vaccine availability as one potential factor for increasing to 5 days a week. Oxford, the week of January 4th, they did a K-12 hybrid, and starting the week of January 8th, they went back to full-time face-to-face. Rochester started elementary in a hybrid format. Middle school will start 1 week after that in a hybrid format, and high school the following week after that. Royal Oak is doing a K-5 in a hybrid format, AB on alternating full days, 50% at a time, face-to-face, 4 days a week. They also have the virtual option. South Lyon, K-5 return in person 4 days a week, on January 11th. 612 returned to 50-50 hybrid 4 days a week on January 11th. Troy, they're back to 5 days a week at their elementary, 4 days a week at secondary. I spoke to the superintendent today. He said they went 4 days a week at secondary because they only have 25% of their students back in person. The other students, the 75% are virtual. And so because of those low class sizes, they thought they could go 4 days a week at the secondary level. Walled Lake, their schools have been, elementary schools have been back 5 days a week since early December. The secondary schools returned today. He indicated they'll have an A-B schedule, so there will be school 2 to 3 times a week. So it's kind of a hybrid format for them. West Bloomfield's currently on a hybrid format and believes that they will continue to do that. Northville, their elementary schools are 5 days a week. I talked to their superintendent today as well. They believe their secondaries are on the hybrid format, and they believe that they will continue to do that for the foreseeable future. And so those are some of the surrounding districts and what they're doing currently.
Thank you, Dr. Matthews, and thank you, Mrs. Murphy, for that inquiry. Any other comments or questions regarding the recommendation on the floor? Okay. Seeing none, I will ask you, Mr. Mena, for a roll call vote, please.
Trustee Cook,
Yes.
Trustee Hood,
Yes.
Trustee Mena, no. Trustee Murphy,
Yes.
Trustee Roney,
Yes.
Trustee Ruskin,
Yes.
Trustee Smith,
No.
Did you hear that, Mr. Mena? I'm sorry, now I'm yellow. Thank you.
I did, I got it. 5-2.
Okay. 5-2. All righty, next up, we will move on to our information and discussion. We have 5 items there. First, we will start with bid package number 4, high school HVAC system. Dr. Matthews.
Thank you, Dr. Ruskin. On Tuesday, November 24th, 2020, and Thursday, December 17th, 2020, sealed bids were received and publicly opened for Novi Middle School additions and remodeling. In attendance for the bid opening, let me get down to where we're at. This is actually the project team conducted post-bid interviews with each of the following qualified bidders. Based upon the team's review of the proposals and bidders, the proposal for the Novi Community School District was for HVAC to go to Goyette Mechanical for $535,118. And we have Agnes Arbuckle from McCarthy Smith here this evening that can talk about this bid package. Agnes.
Sure. Thank you, Dr. Matthews. So this was the last bid category that we had some delay in rebid for due to some additional information needed on the snow melt system. And this rounds out with this bid all the contractors that we recommended previously for the high school project. And this would be awarded to Goyette Mechanical. And I updated the summary of the budget to reflect where the overall project budget is. And obviously we're still tracking under budget, but as part of this bid, we actually picked up some more savings. So that's reflected in the summary compared to the last time we reviewed the summary with all the contractors on it.
Thank you, Agnes. Does anybody have any specific questions regarding this bid pack? Mr. Cook, please.
Yeah, are we doing anything innovative with the heating, the HVAC system now, or are we just doing same old, same old?
So mechanical systems, you have variable volume boxes, so they're called VAVs.
Yep.
And they allow us to regulate and zone our heating and cooling, which is a lot more flexible than the old way of distributing air. So yes, throughout the district, we're going and upgrading the systems. Specifically to these additions, we're implementing those systems in here where we're putting in rooftop units, and they are able to, have zones and have a lot more control over the individual rooms. So that's very helpful.
So has that technology already been implemented in some of the other schools, and why we can adjust the fresh airflow for the COVID?
I couldn't speak to the previous projects, but I think your facilities could. I know they do regulate, and we are slowly, especially with this bond going through as we renovate, we are upgrading all those mechanical systems. So one by one, as we go in, especially like this summer, we're going into the elementary schools, Village Oaks and Orchard Hills, and we are in fact replacing all the air handling units and upgrading all the mechanical systems.
Yep,
So
thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Cook. Any other questions for Agnes?
So this would come back to the board on February 4th for approval.
Correct. Okay, so if you have any further questions, please feel free to send them over through Dr. Matthews, and he will send them to the team to get the information that you need.
And I did get a message from Mr. Dragoo, and he said they have VAVs in many buildings currently. So we'll get some update on that for the board as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Next, we will move on to information and discussion item B, which is secure entry in classroom office technology. Dr. Matthews.
Thank you, Dr. Ruskin. IDS worked with district technology staff, TMP Architecture, McCarthy Smith, and Plant Moran to determine the needs and coordination with the design and construction plans for the secure entry renovations at Novi High School, Novi Middle School, Orchard Hills Elementary, and Village Oaks Elementary. The systems acquired and installed will be an expansion of the existing district secure access systems and include providing card reader access control systems for controllable door hardware, intercom systems, and all programming necessary to interface new hardware with the existing access control, fire, and ADA systems. IDS also worked with the district technology staff, TMP Architect, McCarthy Smith, and Plant Moran to determine the needs in coordination with the design and construction plans for the classrooms and office renovations and additions at Novi High School, Novi Middle School, Orchard Hills Elementary, and Village Oaks Elementary. The systems acquired and installed will be an expansion of the existing district data network and audiovisual systems. They include providing data network drops, wireless access points, flat panel displays, sound reinforcement, and presentation systems, and all programming necessary for operation and interfacing the new hardware with existing data and audiovisual systems. On Thursday, December 17th, 2020 at 3 p.m., sealed bids were received and publicly open. Bids were opened and recorded. 3 firms submitted bids for the secure access systems and include providing card access readers, control systems for controllable door hardware, intercom systems, and all programming necessary to interface new hardware with the existing access control, fire, and ADA systems. We received 3 bids. Bids base were as follows. And IDS recommends award of the secure entry renovation technology project to Security 101 in the amount of $71,316.61. IDS also recommends a district managed contingency of $7,132. 4 firms submitted bids for the classroom and office renovations that would include providing data network drops, wireless access points, flat panel displays, sound reinforcement and presentation systems, and all programming necessary for operation and interfacing with new hardware with existing data and audiovisual systems. We received 4 bids, and IDS recommends awarding the classroom and office renovation technology project to Digital Age Technologies in the amount of $255,641. IDS also recommends a district managed contingency of $25,564. And so this comes to the board for information and discussion tonight and would be approved at our February 4th meeting. And tonight we have Anthony Lacricchio, we have Jeff Maas, we have Matt McCarthy from IDS to discuss this with the board. And so I would turn to which of you want to talk first?
We'll start with Mr. McCarty.
Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Matthews, and thanks, Maz. So yeah, these were 2 portions of the technology for the construction that's happening at these buildings. The first part is the secure entry, as mentioned, card readers and the systems that go along with that. The second part being the data network and the audio visual for both the classrooms and the office renovations. And for the additions, we're putting some new sound systems in the new music rooms at the middle school, and outfitting the classrooms, a new resource room at Village Oaks. And so the district has worked with Digital Age on several projects in the past. They do good work, and we've always been very happy to work with them. Security 101 is new to Novi as a vendor, but they are a Honeywell Platinum certified vendor, and so they come highly recommended. I'd be happy to answer any questions that anybody has.
Mr. McCarthy, you might explain why the low bids were not accepted on the one project.
So for the data and the AV project, 2 of the bidders did not bid any of the audiovisual equipment or services. They only bid structured cabling. And so those 2 bids were deemed non-compliant.
Maz, did you have anything to add?
No, I think Matt did a fine job in explaining everything.
Thank you.
I think Ms. Murphy had a question.
No, you actually asked my questions.
It's a great mind, Ms. Murphy.
Thank you. You too.
Mr. Cook, please.
Yeah, we're not only concerned with the safety of our children, we're also concerned with the safety of their data and stuff like that. Has our security consultant looked over these specs and stuff and to see if they're agreeable with them, or is that beyond their scope that they were contracted for?
We have been in communication with the security consultant. We met with them to go over the plans for all of the buildings. And so we continue to work with them. Yes, they are plugged in as well.
Thank you.
And Mr. Cook, just to clarify, this is the physical security versus data security. So the entrance and exit of a building and the card swipes to get in there. We work with the security team at Oakland Schools on the data side security as well.
Okay.
So this would come back to the board on February 4th. If you do have questions between now and then, as you look over the material or something comes to your mind, please feel free to reach out to me or Dr. Weber, and we would get those questions to the tech team, and we would be able to answer those questions before February 4th.
To our tech team for being here tonight to answer questions and all the work you're doing behind the scenes for security for our students and our staff. We appreciate you. Okay, next we'll move on to information and discussion item C, which is the IB career prep report. Dr. Matthews.
Thank you, Dr. Ruskin. I will introduce this, but then I will turn to Dr. Weber and to our 2 guests from the high school this evening, Ms. Brown and Ms. Leppart. Elena Brown, teacher and IB coordinator at Novi High School, and Sarah Leppart, counselor at Novi High School, would like to propose that Novi High School offer an International Baccalaureate Career Program. In light of the Michigan Department of Education's Career Readiness Initiative and student interest, the addition of this program would complement the existing diploma program and give more IB opportunities to all students at the high school. So I'll turn to Dr. Weber for additional comments if he has any. If not, we will turn to Ms. Brown and Ms. Leppart because they have a presentation for the board this evening about this.
Yep, thank you, Dr. Matthews. Appreciate that. I'm going to go ahead and tee this up a little bit. So this is the International Baccalaureate Career-Related Program. Before pandemic hit, we were fortunate to have trustees Murphy and Roney visit Ann Arbor's Huron High School to see this in action. Miss Elena Brown, who is our coordinator of all things advanced placement and international baccalaureate, former social studies content area leader and world history teacher extraordinaire, is here with us tonight. Also, Ms. Sarah Leppart, who's really the leader of our CTE programming throughout the district and works on state and federal programming around that. She's also a high school counselor, a parent in the district here in Novi, and also has taken over some leadership at the Novi Mental Health Coalition. So two very talented people that I have the pleasure of working with and have known for years and years. And then also to tee this up, we presented this at our curriculum committee meeting led by Miss Marianne Roney, and Mr. Mena was at that meeting as well. Mr. Smith was not able to make it that evening. Mr. Mena and Miss Roney asked some really great questions and pushed our own thinking a little bit. And I certainly hope Mr. Mena, Miss Roney, and Miss Murphy will add a little bit of color commentary when they can to this presentation. In my mind, this is another example of what you see of providing value to our families. We're also looking at this career technical aspect and the career related programming to give real world skills that our students need, and also fits much, Dr. Matthews, with the bond work that we're doing. So with that said, it is my pleasure now to turn this presentation over to Ms. Brown and Ms. Leppard. And again, I know Mr. Mena, Ms. Roney, and Ms. Murphy have some deep knowledge and interest in this as well. So thank you all. Elena and Sarah, thank you.
All right, thank you so much for allowing us to come present tonight. We're going to start out with a video, so Elena's going to cue that up, and then we'll go from there.
These kids have skills, these kids have drive, and they've got ideas, and the CP really gives them the opportunity to exploit and get that out there.
I want to be able to run my own business, so I saw CP being able to accommodate for that. Since it was more practical based, I was able to see how it's done, and when I start my own, I'm able to make improvements and maybe even do it better.
It's really hands-on. They take a photography class and it's not a theory. They learn some theory and then they go out and they take photographs.
This framework gives us the time and opportunity to teach students soft skills, hard skills, skills that do matter.
So when I stepped into the IBCP, I was able to just step back and look at everything from a much broader perspective.
I think first of all, they introduce you to the real world. You have to learn a lot of other things like scholarship talks or getting jobs, creating your LinkedIn. How do you market yourself? How do you deal with when people disagree in a way that is productive and doesn't get in the way of your creative process?
I get to learn how to deal with different people and how to communicate with them, how to cooperate in the same project.
El programa POP te da ventajas muy buenas, puesto que tú llegas sabiendo a la universidad cosas que otros no saben. La ventaja del programa es que nos permite realizarnos académicamente, tanto profesionalmente, puesto que ya vamos enfocados con una carrera que queremos realizar.
With the personal professional skills, it really gives them the opportunity to delve into subjects they would never learn elsewhere.
And because of service learning, I've also learned and done so many new things which I haven't experienced before.
In the context of today's world, having additional languages is a necessity. So that element being built into the course is another positive for us.
Self-awareness, an appreciation of their own strengths, a sense of self-confidence, a growth in communication skills. Those are all things which I have observed students developing.
And that's the sort of thing that I think builds our students into members of a community and members of a society, which is what we're all about, really.
All right, so, we are looking at the IBCP as was just presented there, and we're excited about this because the career program brings and integrates all the things we love about the IB into a little bit more of an accessible program for more students. So we're going to kind of go over all the components of that and lay out how it makes it more accessible to a larger population of our school staff, so our school students. So why another program, you might be asking? I know we have the IBDP, we have the AP Capstone. So why another program? So some of the reasons, the first is that it aligns with the MDE Career Readiness Initiative. So in 2018, the state of Michigan put out a new initiative that really focuses on making sure that all of our students K-12 have career readiness activities embedded into the curriculum and into their activities throughout the day. And so just a couple, I jotted down some of the objectives, the main ones, and when you look at them, the career program really aligns with all of them. So the first is to ensure that all students, especially our underserved population, have meaningful access to high quality career pathways, and that a commitment to equity is embedded in all efforts to improve career preparation. Another one, the second objective is to forge well-designed linkages between secondary and post-secondary education and training for all career pathways. And the third is to integrate all relevant funding sources, including federal, state, local, and private sources to sustain and scale up career preparation. And when we look at this CP program, I truly believe it hits on each of those objectives for our high school students.
It also further supports where the district values the IB program. The benefit of having IB as part of Novi High School is that it's supposed to be part of Novi High School. It's not just for our DP students or our students in IB courses. And something that we've really embraced as a building is this IB learner profile. And that emphasizes characteristics like all students being knowledgeable, being good communicators, being inquirers, being reflective, being open-minded, being caring. And so this would further reinforce that idea. What's nice about this too is it allows for more flexibility for students who want to participate in an IB program. Maybe they don't want to just take courses, they want to be part of a program, but they can't quite take on the full DP. And so because of that, it has the opportunity to increase enrollment in IB DP classes, making them more economical to run. And just to give you a sense of the numbers of our current program and where it stands right now, you can see that our courses, and keep in mind, only juniors and seniors can take IB courses. They're not open to 9th or 10th graders with the exception of the first year of math. And so you can see that our courses are quite full. There is a bit of a dip here, but that is the first year we began to run AP Capstone. So just keep that in mind as you're looking at the numbers. We've stayed pretty consistent since Capstone with our DP students, and yet the number of students testing, the number of tests given has increased. I wanted to look around, at other districts. I meet monthly with other IB coordinators in the area, and I talked to them a lot about their program numbers and how they look. And you'll see that our number of students in courses is comparable to Northville. They also run the middle years program, but this is just their DP students. But they have those 2 years leading into it to expose their students to it. So our numbers are pretty comparable there. Our DP is smaller, but they do not offer capstone, and nor do they offer career related. If you look at Walled Lake Western, they have comparable numbers to our diploma students, maybe a few more tests given, right, in that program, but they also do not offer the capstone. One other thing to keep in mind is that at Northville, they have a 7-period day, so they have a course within their school day that supports their IBDP students. Walled Lake Western does not, and we do not. And then how does it compare to our AP program? I know we have a robust AP program, so why are we going to flesh out our smaller program? Why not put all of our support behind this? It's a fair question, but I just want to show you where we are with our numbers. Again, we have students from 9th through 12th grade in these courses. The numbers for this year are not fully accurate because the way AP set things up, all students who are enrolled in classes are currently registered for exams. That won't all end up being the case. You can see there's normally a dip between those two. So what is the IBDP or CP curriculum? It is 2 classes from our existing IBDP program. This can be used to meet graduation requirements. We'll talk a little bit about that. Then we'll talk about what makes it unique with the CP core and what the career element really is. So if we focus first on the 2 classes from the IBDP, these are all the classes we currently offer. English literature can fulfill their 11th and 12th grade English requirement. History can fulfill their junior world history requirement. Biology, physics, sports, exercise, health sciences can all fulfill science requirements, and this one can even fulfill health and PE. Math can fulfill math, right? So all of these courses aren't additional things the kids would take or students would take. They are courses that they might take in order to fulfill their graduation requirements. They would just have to pick two, and they can be at any level. Here's just a few sample schedules of what it might look like. These will make a bit more sense after Sarah talks about these two tracks, but you can see that they would be taking just 2 IB DP courses and then whatever their normal course load would be. This is where that flexibility piece comes in. And then Sarah, did you have anything else you want to say about the schedule before we move on?
You know, we put in some just ideas of classes, but obviously there were lots of options. So students do the flexibilities there that they have, you know, they have to take 2 DP classes. I think I have like 3, just kind of was playing with this, with the ideas, but students only have to take the 2 DP and then the career track. So there is a lot more flexibility in what classes they can take. It allows them to, you know, stay in their band class or their choir, which we know is really limited with the DP program. And so the CP core is the next component of this, and there are 4 parts to it. So there's a course, if you're familiar with the IB DP program, this kind of mirrors that. So there's a personal professional skills course, which is similar to, it's alike the TOK, the Theories of Knowledge course. They cover different topics, but is the course that kind of supports the whole program. There's also a service learning component that's required with it, a reflective project, and then there's language development. So the personal professional skills course, and Elena, I think if you flip it, we've got like information, there we go. So that seems like a really great class. And I know that Trustee Roney and Trustee Murphy, you were with us. This was the class that we visited. And this was where students really work on some professional skills. So they are getting ready for post-secondary, for the workplace. They work on their attitude skills, strategies to how to be in that personal and professional situation, and to just be really articulate. They're well spoken. We were all really impressed by how those students presented themselves during that time. So it's a really neat class that works on interview skills. They work on their resume, they work on making a LinkedIn profile, and then they work on how to just, you know, maybe discuss a disagreement in the workplace, or how to give their elevator speech. So lots of really great skills that many of our students would benefit from in high school. There's also a service learning component to it. And so it's an identified, authentic community need. This also kind of mirrors the CAS with the IBDP. And I've told some people this. So I have a daughter, Dr. Weber said that I am a parent in this district. So I have a junior. She is part of the DP program. And that was one of the things I loved about her joining this, is that service learning. It gets them outside of the classroom, which anyone that knows my daughter, she is a fanatic learner. She loves to learn. And so that's where her passion is. But this really has pushed her to get out, and she's working with a young lady and doing some tutoring weekly with a 5th grader. And it's just been a great experience for her, and I believe for that young lady that she's working with. So I really like that component of the IB, is that it takes kids out of the classroom and really puts them in the community to be involved in other things besides just academics.
Additionally, the students are required, just like in the DP program, they have the extended essay. In the CP program, they have a reflective project. It's an in-depth body of work produced over a long period of time, where the students identify, analyze, critically discuss, and evaluate, and this is where I think it gets interesting, an ethical issue arising from their career-related study. So they are looking at an ethical issue in whatever career track they have chosen. So I talked to Ann Arbor Huron, who currently runs this program. I believe they're in their 3rd year of running it. And some topics that students are exploring this year are, is it better to produce, or can you produce electric vehicles for environmental improvement, but can you do that sustainably? Should companies be allowed to upcharge cancer treatments for the purpose of making profits? Should college athletes lose their scholarship when they aren't able to play due to an injury they experienced at that college? Should we give AI civil rights? Has predictive analytics become too invasive? And so students are really wrestling with topics in their field. And this gives them something to talk about. Should they go on an interview? Should they seek an internship? Should they be applying to colleges? It just gives them something more to speak about. And the good thing about the reflective project, again, equity for students, more accessibility to students, it doesn't have to be an essay. They can submit it in a variety of formats that make sense for the type of project that it is. Just like the DP, it also has a language piece. This language piece is unique in that it is only 50 hours and it can be done through coursework, which is normally what students do. They just take another language course and the language is offered at the school. Or they can create a portfolio. If they plan to go to Dubai to do business, right? If they plan to go to Nigeria to do business, maybe they could self-study a different language and create a language portfolio that is in line with whatever career track they are studying. There was an example given to us when we visited Ann Arbor, Huron, of a student who's studying cosmetology, and she wanted to learn sign language because she wanted to be able to talk to her customers. She wanted to be able to talk to this unique set of customers and make them feel welcome. And so she is studying 50 hours on her own sign language and developing a portfolio to show that she knows how long do you want your hair? Do you want highlights? Things that would be useful in that context.
Okay, and then the last component of the CP program is the career-related study. So students select a career track from offered choices. So a career-related program is part of the student timetable during the 2-year program. A career-related study is something that is accredited or recognized by one or more of the following. So a government body, an awarding body, an appropriate employer organization or professional body, a further higher education institution, and it must be a career-related study is subject to a demonstrable form of external quality assurance. So it needs to be something that has some type of certification or some type of group that is approving that curriculum. So there's some external validity to those programs. Currently in our high school, we have 2 state-funded programs, our marketing program and our finance. So we would propose to start with those 2 programs. Those are the 2 programs that have been running for years that have that government body approval because they are state funded, and they also have funding that comes from the state with their added cost because they are approved by the state. We would like to look at OSTC. We think that would be a great way to bring some of those kids that go to OSTC some recognition with the IB. It allows, again, that flexibility. A kid going to OSTC could not do the DP, but this might be an option for them if they kind of want both things. We also would look at other accreditations. So maybe health sciences, engineering, computer programming, early childhood. These may not be state accredited, but hopefully get funding from other areas. So again, starting with that marketing and finance program, but definitely looking to open the door to other things in the future. So the cost, the first fee is $8,500 for the application, and then the training of the teacher is $2,000. And the only teacher we would need to train would be the personal professional skills teacher, since that would be a new course. And then each year there's an annual fee of $1,480. And like I said, with that state funding from our marketing and finance program, we can use that added cost funding to help pay for this. So that application fee, the annual fee, can come out of our added cost because it is supporting and strengthening our career programs. So the idea of the added cost is to help support those programs, and this CP program would meet that requirement.
And just to give you a sense of what IB costs and what the additional costs would be, this is a rough budget based on historic numbers. I know budgets are kind of off this year, but these are the numbers I've had in the past. So even though it's projected for the next 5 years, these are based on historic numbers. But if you're wondering what this is costing the district or has been costing the district, these numbers don't really change when we add CP to it. All that would change is that we will have potentially more students taking these classes. And you'll see the additional cost here is just the annual fee. We get a discount on that because we are already a DP school. And then anticipated training costs. This is where more money could potentially hit in years to come. And this is accurate numbers. These aren't, based on historic, these are projecting forward. DP maintenance is in black, CP additions are in blue, and then if funds were available, other things that we might like to do in years to come. And you can see that we're hitting this at a really good spot because we don't have any DP maintenance right now. So money that's currently budgeted to train DP teachers might be able to train the support of the growth of this additional program. So next steps, we are currently seeking board approval. We would like to go forward with this and submit that application fee. We are already getting, you're not supposed to get support from IB World Schools until you pay that application fee. But as soon as we told them we were interested, we've already had a meeting with the world manager for our region. We've had 2 other people reach out to us and try to support us. We've just told them we're not there yet. We haven't gotten approval. So with that application fee, we get more support in completing the application. And then the timeline is that we go through that application, then fall 2021 to spring 22, we advertise the program, we enroll the first junior class, we train the first teacher. We would love to get greater staff training through impact sessions, raise awareness in the building of what is going on and how to support students. Again, the idea is that IB helps the whole building. And these personal and professional skills are things that we might like to see all of our students exposed to in some capacity. So probably getting ahead of myself here, but the training of the one teacher, those ideas are coming back to the building. We would like to be able to share it with the staff in some way. And then by fall of 2022, we would really like our first class of juniors to be able to start this program. So that's it. Questions?
So we bring this to the board this evening for information discussion. We would like to bring it back to the board on February 4th for approval. And if you have questions tonight, both Ms. Brown and Ms. Lephart would be able to answer those, and Dr. Weber could lend his support as well.
Raising his hand there.
Okay, thank you. And thanks. I enjoyed watching this presentation again. I obviously had the pleasure of seeing this during our curriculum meeting. So again, just to clarify, initially we would start with marketing and finance because those are the 2 tracks that we have certification on in our district. In those cases, it's because they are CTE certified. And from what I understand is we could offer other tracks. They don't have to be tracks that are CTE certified, but have some sort of certification. For example, if we were to partner with a company who offers some sort of robotics certification, and we were to bring in those classes in our district, then we could have a robotics track, correct?
Yeah.
And I didn't ask this question before because I just thought about it now. How many marketing or finance classes are required to get the CP certification?
So they call it a completer, is 2 classes. So for our marketing program, it's marketing 1, and then marketing sports and entertainment is 1 route, or they could do marketing 1 and marketing store operations. So it's 2 courses to be a completer, and finance is the same.
So in that respect, it's a little bit different because all you're asking for is students to take classes in a certified program. Let's say robotics required more than 2 classes, or a track that we brought in would require more than 2 classes to complete that particular certification. Would IB allow simply 2 classes within that certified program to be taken, not get the certification for, let's say, robotics, but still get credit towards your CP diploma?
I think you would need to get the certification. So the way I kind of envision it is I know that Huron has, they have Project Lead the Way, and it's a 4-year program for engineering. So students start taking classes their freshman, sophomore, junior year, but they do need to complete the program, even though it's not just in their junior and senior year, to get that, to be on that IBCP track.
If I could just continue one more, if a student had the wherewithal or the want to during high school also have a dual track of trying to get, for example, some sort of computer, like let's say Microsoft Certified Solutions Expert, okay, so one of the entry level computer courses, computer certifications. Can they do that, you think, outside of the district and still have it count towards the CP track?
So my understanding, and I can get some more clarification, but my understanding is that they need to be programs that are tied to the high school because IB has to approve them. So there are instances where maybe a dual enrollment course, like I kind of think of phlebotomy, like if we had med careers and then they did the phlebotomy certification at dual, that might be an option for the health sciences, but there are still classes that are tracked in the high school that students are enrolled in. It's not something that, because we have to have each of the programs certified, like the IB people have to approve that program. And so we have to present to them, you know, what that looks like in the high school.
So, but you'd have to try to find something that somebody could get certified in within 2 courses, right?
It wouldn't have to be 2 courses. Our marketing and our finance actually has 4 courses. They're just complete after 2. So you can take finance 1, accounting 1, finance 2, accounting 2. Students could take those courses all through high school. They're completers. We get our funding, complete funding after those 2 courses, but they call it a Q course when they go above and beyond. So it could definitely be more than 2 classes. The state, based on how the funding works, it helps us to have those classes just be 2 because more students are able to complete the program that way.
They would just need, they would just need to then give up one of their elective spots, for example, if a certification required 3 classes instead of 2 or 4 classes instead of 2, they would just take those classes instead of an elective.
Correct.
Also keep in mind that IB is a junior senior program, so maybe they're taking 1 class every year, all 4 years, and they're taking their last 2 that would count towards the CP in their junior and senior year.
And, you know, Mr. Mena, what you brought up at the curriculum committee meeting that's interesting is the more people that we have that are CTE certified in our school, the more money that we get, the more money that Sarah can then help allocate to provide help to our kids. But the state's way of doing so is kind of curious, who they'll allow us to hire with those certifications and so on. So that could be another discussion. But on the robotics piece, is the board and the community has supported our bond. The back of the building and the design that we've been looking at is really built for flexibility, so we could bring in more of the courses that you're thinking of right now, Mr. Mena, as well. Perhaps computer certification, but FANUC Robotics provides a really wonderful, they actually provide a 3-tier type of programming for certification. It's my belief, because of everything we're doing K-8, that we could start right at tier 3 and get kids certified to go to work, basically walk across the stage and walk into a $75K a year job out of that. So this career-related program piece, and I can't thank Elena and Sarah, Bobby and Marianne enough, because it really fits in with the bond. It fits in with the back of the high school. It fits in with what we're looking at high school scheduling. And Mr. Mena, as you said, the cost for it is really quite low compared to the payoff that we could get.
I
think you said me.
I did.
Yeah, I don't really have a question. Elena and Sarah, thanks for being here. And I just want to make a quick comment because I appreciate the way you're starting this. I think it's very similar to the way Huron started it, where they started their program out with the things they already kind of had certs on. and then they've expanded that. And some of the things that we went and saw them doing, like auto shop, there was a certification for something in that area, because we went down and toured that area, and then like kind of a metalworking thing. And so there's it really has an appeal to a broad range of kids, and the kids that were in that core class that we were in, there really was a really broad range of interest. And what struck me was, personally, being the emotional growth kind of person that I tend to be, is that they really getting along with each other like incredibly well. And even though the interests and I would say the academic levels were kind of all over the place, like some were very, hands-on, real mechanical inclined people. There were, a couple others that were like one kid that was creating creating his own website, I think, to market himself and things like that. And just a very, very broad range, but they had such a cohesion as a group, where they really, I'm sure initially had to work really hard to kind of find those commonalities, because like I said, it was a very diverse group, and not just ethnically diverse, which that was the case also, but just really diverse in their interests. The girl that was a cosmetology person, like in the same class with these, engineering people, and yet all of them kind of had this really great way of working together and working through issues together, which I just think that's something that, I know, Tom, we've talked about soft skills a lot, and the NEF has talked about a lot too. And that is one piece of that group that was really evident, that like the one kid that I talked to said he had social anxiety, and you could not have told he had any anxiety at all having a conversation with him. And I think it was partially just being in this supportive group of people where he was able to, pursue a passion, that kind of drove him through that. So it was a great experience, and like I said, really broadened the number of kids that could be involved, and also just kind of it is rigorous, but it's rigorous in a direction where kids that maybe don't think of themselves as schooly or really highly academic minded would find a good fit in this. And, I just really like and appreciate that, because we're talking about equity, right? Mm-hmm. And sure that we have high quality programs for every kid. And it certainly was a very high quality program there. Really impressed with the kids. They were phenomenal and just really passionate about, not just about, the classwork, but just about their personal discovery process in that. And that was just really, thanks for the presentation.
Thank you.
We can't hear you.
Yeah. Have the students and parents been polled to see if they even want a program like this? You look at the DP students, and we're a third of what a neighboring district has, even though we've got just as many students taking IB classes. I'm a little nervous, as this might be if we build it, they will come. And, do we even know that it's wanted? If there's an interest in it or not.
So a couple things on that. One, we did survey students last fall before all of this hit. We had this full plan all of last year to explore and present. So we do have student and some parent data on that. Additionally, we have to be careful when we compare ourselves to Northville. They have a middle years program, which feeds right into their diploma program that their younger students are taking. Additionally, they do not have AP capstone. And they have a 7th period class that their DP students take, which supports them in all the additional components. So they have space in their schedule to do their theory of knowledge, their extended essay, and reflect on CAS. Our students do all of this during lunch, so to take on the DP in our current system is a bit of a challenge. So I think the more like comparison is really with Walled Lake, and they still don't offer capstone. So our diploma numbers aren't amazing, right? But we are filling the classes, and there is an appetite for the classes, particularly the business classes. Ms. Forrest does an amazing job with that class and has great sections and great success with that. So same with our sports exercise class that's really taken off recently. So I think we have to be careful when we compare because we don't have an apples to apples comparison. And we do have survey data. If you'd like us to track that down, or if you'd like us to resurvey, because that was over a year ago that we did that, I'd be happy to run that for you.
No, I was comparing us to Walled Lake, not Northville, because I am aware Northville does have that middle years program. But, you know, the capstone is one, you know, one course. And, you know, like I say, my concern is, you know, if it's really desired, I can see a lot of benefit in it, but where's the benefit if nobody wants to do it? Because you're taking multiple classes, not just one class. So, and it looks like a lot of our IB students are, you know, might be taking one or two classes and, you know, and the tests. So.
I do think that Mr. Cook and the board that this program would open up kind of the IB experience to a broader range of students than typical, and that would be a benefit, I think, to those students as well to have that opportunity.
Comments. Hello. Right. Mr. Lecurcio lives our meeting, and then I can't have good technology here. Any other comments or specific questions? Certainly you can continue to send them off to Ms. Brown and Ms. Lephart and through Dr. Matthews. Mr. Mena, please.
Just a couple quick questions here. So the CP students would not be required to take theory and knowledge, correct?
Correct. They would take the personal professional skills course.
Okay. And then the other question is we this would only require us to add, did you say one or two additional classes to the curriculum, to our book actually? Just one?
One class.
Okay. Thank you.
Roney?
I just want to thank these Mrs. Brown and Ms. Lephart for bringing this forward. When me and Bobby went, I wish we could have all been there because just to see the kids and, you know, they're learning skills that they don't learn in any other classes, especially watching them help each other with resumes and LinkedIn and such like that, that it's going to be a skill they can use for the rest of their life. So that was part of it. And just the synergy in the class, you know, we were there and they did a little shout out where they all got together and said, I don't know, some phrase, some word, and they had this, you know, one girl, you know, with her iPhone, and they sent it out to everybody, and she had a long list of people. It wasn't just the people in the program, it was a bunch of students. So, you know, it brings, you know, the student body in too with it. So I thought that was just really amazing, and I think this would be a good fit. And Mr. Cook, I really do think that students, you know, like if you build it, they will come. And I think it fills a need that we have for some students that don't want to do the entire DP program. You know, it would help them instead of, you know, doing a lot of things. In the service projects, I mean, we had some of the kids talk about where they would go out and do certain things that they wouldn't normally. They stepped out of their little, you know, sphere and out of their element. And I thought that was great too. So personal growth for the students would be wonderful as well.
Thank you, Mrs. Roney, for your comments. And thank you, Mrs. Roney, for your comments. And I know you've been talking about this for about a year now and the excitement that you share about it. So We appreciate you bringing that to the forefront. Any other questions or comments at the moment? Okay. Seeing none, I want to thank you both for being here and sharing this information with us. Certainly, I'm sure there will be more questions from the board that will be shared through Dr. Weber and Dr. Matthews over the next couple weeks.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity to share.
All righty. Next on our information and discussion items, we have Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Report. Dr. Matthews.
Thank you, Dr. Ruskin. Our district has shown a long commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion. Beginning in 2010, the district has taken a number of steps to promote and support efforts at diversity, equity, and inclusion, including staff participate in social justice capacity building workshops led by the University of Michigan. Over 100 staff members have participated since 2010. The Office of Academics includes social justice as a foundational principle of their work. Students participate in student dialogues on race and ethnicity summer workshops led by the University of Michigan. Staff participate in 4-day culturally responsive teacher training. Staff participate in 4-day courageous conversations about race training. Restorative practices becomes a central focus at the middle and high school and working with students. Oakland Schools facilitator Dr. J. Marks works with buildings on culturally responsive teaching practices and issues related to race and ethnicity. Playworks is brought to the district to develop student skills in respect, inclusion, and healthy community. Develop a district-wide multi-tiered system of support to support all students. Teacher-led diversity, equity, and inclusion team was formed to emphasize the importance of this work. Even with this work, we recognize that diversity, equity, and inclusion is an ongoing priority for the district. And to continue to support this work, 2 new efforts have begun this year. First, 2 board members, Ms. Roney and Dr. Ruskin, are participating in an Oakland Schools Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion DEI committee. Second, we are including diversity, equity, and inclusion in our district school improvement plan. As a district, we will continue to embed diversity, equity, and inclusion as a primary focus of building an inclusive and welcoming community. And this report this evening was really just intended to update the board and the community of some of the efforts that we have engaged in, to remind the community of those, and also just to highlight that this is a continuing priority for the district as we move forward.
Thank you, Dr. Matthews, for sharing that. Our next meeting that Mrs. Roney and I will be attending, I think, is on January 26th. So we'll be getting back into the swing of things after the holidays to meet with other representatives throughout Oakland County. There was a community member who asked most recently to have these reports on our board agenda. And so I thought that that would be a great idea to regularly have reporting out, since so much goes on behind the scenes that not only us, but community members and staff and students are unaware of what's happening. So this is really for, as it says, information and discussion as we continue this work. Next, does anybody have any questions regarding the report at all? Mrs. Roney, please.
I just had one question, RJ and Dr. Matthews, if we had looked into getting our curriculum audited.
Kind of an equity audit is what you're thinking?
Correct.
Dr. Weber and I have had some of those discussions. There's no formal plan at this point. I think as we go into our district improvement plan and make diversity, equity, and inclusion a part of that, that might be one of the things that we would look at. Dr. Weber, I don't know if you have additional comments.
Yep, I would say, as President Ruskin said, there's so much going on behind the scenes, and really this 10-year journey that we've been on. I look forward to sharing where we've been, because I think it helps inform where we're going to go. Maybe that's the historian in me, but I do think past work is important in building on that. And Ms. Roney, as far as a equity audit, those are things that we'd be open to discussing without a doubt. Luckily and fortunately, our curriculum is one of the best articulated in the state of Michigan, so it wouldn't take too long for our folks to go through that. So thank you for that question. And President Ruskin, thank you for acknowledging all the BTS or behind the scenes work that does occur.
Mrs. Roney, for bringing that idea forward. I know we get lots of ideas at our meeting, and we look to best practices from other schools in the district. So I appreciate that. Seeing no other comments or questions? Okay, we will move on to our next information and discussion piece, which is letter E. It's our COVID metrics to change learning modalities. Dr. Matthews.
Thank you, Dr. Ruskin. And this is a conversation. The report is intended just to be a conversation starter. And as you can see by the comments that we've had from the community this evening, there are strong feelings on both sides of this issue about kind of continuing in our current format of both hybrid and virtual, or returning students to school 5 days a week. As you can see around the county, in the region, there's a wide variety of ways that schools have addressed this. One of the things I would like to continue to emphasize is that in our district, since September 8th, we've continued to provide an in-person option for every day since September 8th. And so, is it perfect? No, it's not. Has it gotten better over time? I believe that it has. Have our teachers continued to be creative and focus on meeting student needs? Yes, they have. And so I believe that we've done a pretty good job. But I'll present this report tonight as a place to start the discussion. And the intent is not to make a decision this evening. It's just to kind of spark a conversation, and hopefully as we move forward, we can find ways to look at whether or not it would be in our best interest of bringing students back 5 days a week. So returning students to school 5 days a week is a common goal for our Novi Community School District parents, Board of Education, teachers, and administrators. In order to do so, the conditions in our schools and communities need to be safe. There have been no clear metrics based on case counts or positivity rates given by the state of Michigan or Oakland County Health Division. As a result, you have seen a wide variety of responses by school district. In September 2020, the Novi Community School District was one of the few school districts in our region that offered an in-person option for students. That decision was based on our ability to create space for social distancing and follow safety protocols. We have offered an in-person option since September 8th and have had a consistent schedule by and large since school began. Some districts returned without social distancing and were quickly forced to return to all virtual because of outbreaks among both teachers and students. The state of Michigan and the Oakland County Health Division originally developed an in-person guidance document. That document had a scale based on case counts per million and positivity rates. The rates in November and early December went well past that guidance provided in that document, and yet in Novi, we were still able to safely have students in school. The Michigan Department of Health and Human Services abandoned the original document and created a new guidance document, State of Michigan Guidelines for Operating Schools Safely. Included is a section on the safety protocols. It identified 6 recommendations. Designated a COVID-19 point of contact. In our district, our point of contact is our school nurse. Cohorting. We have modified cohorting system in grades K to 6. Students stay with a designated group of students, their cohort for the day. Recess, lunch, specials are with their classroom only. Personal protective equipment, we have provided masks and face shields to all staff. Hand hygiene, we have hand sanitizer available in all classrooms and common areas of the building. Spacing and movement. The recommendations are maintain 6 feet of distance at all times. In instructional settings, space desks 6 feet apart, making creative use of all school spaces, gymnasiums, cafeterias, multi-purpose rooms. The physical distancing of 6 feet cannot be maintained in instructional settings with an all in-person approach. Schools should consider alternative strategies to reduce student density. This may include the use of a hybrid schedule that allows students to maintain 6 feet of distancing and attend in-person school for at least half time. If a school district nonetheless proceeds with in-person learning, at a minimum, it should maintain minimum seated distance of 3 feet in classrooms, consider the feasibility of installing barriers, partitions for additional risk mitigation, ensure that when students are eating lunch with mask off, they maintain 6 feet of physical distance to the extent feasible. Class sizes should be kept to the level afforded by the spacing guidance listed above. In our district, with our hybrid option, we have met and can meet these recommendations. As previously mentioned, we began this approach on September 8th and have had success throughout the first 4 months of the school year. In December, we asked our parents to recommit for second semester. At the time of the survey, we indicated that the commitment made for second semester would last for all of second semester. We also indicated that it might be possible for us to bring our hybrid students back to school 5 days a week if the numbers indicated that we could do so safely. The question is, what do the numbers say? In September, the Oakland County Health Division began providing weekly reports. As part of these reports, COVID-19 cases were reported by age. They broke them down into several age groups. I've provided for you tonight the age groups typically associated with our schools. 5 to 9 age group, 10 to 13 age group, 14 to 18 age group. The total cases by week, the percent of cases in each of those age brackets, 5 to 9, 10 to 13, and 14 to 18. As you can see, the majority of cases each week, the vast majority, well over half, have been in the age group of 14 to 18, whereas the cases in the ages groups of 5 to 9 and 10 to 13 are significantly less. The numbers seem to suggest that students aged 5 to 9 and 10 to 13 are less likely to be infected or spread the virus. These would be our students in grades K through 6. However, in saying that, we would be eliminating social distance. We would work to create as much distance as possible, but in many instances that would be limited. Oakland County Health Division does provide us with case counts and positive test information. We can separate it by county, zip code, and district. And the most relevant data point is the case count by district. And as you can see, back in August and September when we started, it was under 10. And then it started to creep up, reached a high in the November, December period, and then has been coming down. The second data point, case counts by zip code, gives us data in our local environment, the 3 zip codes that Novi resides in. And as you can see, the numbers spiked in, again, November and December, but they have gone down. The average currently is 57.3. And the third relevant data point is the case average, 7-day case average, cases per million, and the case counts per day. And so as you can see, the information is provided there for weekly averages over the several weeks of the school year. And then the final data point to consider is test positivity. Given all of this data, I reached the following conclusion. Numbers are higher across the board than when we started school in September. The age group data suggests that younger students are less likely to be impacted. There is no quote unquote safe standard given by any health department to guide us in our decision making. As we consider our schools, Novi's K4 and Meadow schools have fewer students than our middle and high school. As you can see here, I show you the virtual and hybrid breakdown of all of our schools. And these will be the numbers starting second semester. So you can see, for example, at the hybrid students at Meadows 6, for example, are 204. Meadows 5, the hybrid students are 226. Deerfield, there'll be 219 hybrid. Novi Woods, 171 hybrid. Orchard Hills, 166 hybrid. Parkview, 253 hybrid. And Village Oaks, 252 hybrid. That's contrasted with Novi Middle School would have 493 hybrid students, and Novi High School just over 1,000 hybrid students. And it is correct, as noted previously by a parent, that Novi High School and Novi Middle School are significantly larger than any of our elementary schools. Given what we know about age group impact, bringing back K6 students might be an option if numbers continue to track at the current level or below. Given what we know at this time, I would recommend the following, that we track COVID-19 numbers by the following: case count per 10,000 residents in the Novi Community School District, case counts per 10,000 residents average in Novi related zip codes 48374, 48375, 48377. All 3 zip codes would be combined to create an average. Case counts in Oakland County and positivity rates in Oakland County. K6 hybrid students could return to school 5 days a week if case counts per 10,000 residents in the Novi Community School District were at or below 30 for 3 consecutive weeks. Case count average of the 3 Novi zip codes is at or below 55 for 3 consecutive weeks. Case counts in Oakland County are below 200 for 3 consecutive weeks. K6 hybrid students would stay in 5-day-a-week school unless the numbers began to head in the wrong direction. Case counts per 10,000 residents in our district were at or above 45 for 3 consecutive weeks. Case count averages for the 3 zip codes is at or should be above 75 for 3 consecutive weeks. And case counts in Oakland County are above 275 for 3 consecutive weeks. I apologize for the errors there. 712 students, this has caused some confusion. 712 students would be both virtual and hybrid because of their size for the rest of the semester. And so we would continue that option of both virtual and hybrid for 712 students for the rest of the semester. The option would be for the board to revisit that and possibly bring back hybrid students back after spring break. So I am suggesting tonight that we wait until February 17th before we bring our K-6 hybrid students to 5-day-a-week in-person instruction. We would have several weeks of additional data. We would be able to plan effectively. And again, there is no right answer. We must use our collective best judgment to create conditions where students can learn and where they're safe. And I'll report back to the board on February 4th. And if the numbers are trending in the right direction, I would recommend that we bring back our K-6 hybrid students to 5-day-a-week starting February 17th. As I reviewed this data today, one of the things that struck me is maybe it would be more appropriate, instead of having a one number, where at or below 30, for example, maybe you have a range that they're within the 25 to 40 range. As I said, there is no right answer. What this is a point of discussion. The goal, as all of us have, is to bring back our students 5 days a week, if we can. The one number that is clear to me is that the impact on the younger students seems to be less than it is on the older students. And so it appears that K-6 students would be safer to bring those back full-time than it would be to bring back our 7-12 students. Now, I know this creates some consternation among some of our staff, perhaps among some of our parents as well. But at some point, we have to make a decision, either to stick with what we're doing, the virtual and hybrid, for the rest of the semester, or to look to bring back our students. As I shared with you earlier today, districts around us are all over the map about what they're doing. Some of them are coming back full time. Some of them are continuing with the hybrid and virtual options. And so there is no clear indication as to what to do. What I do know is that the younger students typically are less likely to be able to be completely independent. 7-12 students, I would argue, can be more independent because they're older, they're more mature, they might be more self-directed. That is not true for all of them, but it's certainly potentially easier to leave them for parents to go off to work than it is to leave K-6 students. And so, there's just many factors that have to be considered here. And so this is a point of discussion that I would like to at least look towards February 4th as having another discussion point, and possibly committing to bringing back our students on February 17th. If we can't make a decision tonight, January 21st, and say, let's do it tomorrow. We need some time to plan. There's a food service to consider. There's transportation to consider. There's classroom, orientation of desks and all those kinds of things. And so it's not able to immediately happen, but if we take 3 weeks to plan this and then go on our short mid-February break, I think that we might be able to bring K-6 students back on February 17th. But that's my introduction, at least, to this conversation about metrics this evening for the board.
Thank you, Dr. Matthews. Thank you, Dr. Matthews. I don't know if anybody wants to start. I have a couple comments, but I don't want to hog the screen. So if anybody has an urgency to begin, just wave at me. No? No urgency?
You should just continue.
Okay. So some things I really like and appreciate is, one, I appreciate Dr. Matthews and the administrative team taking the suggestions that we've made. We've talked about this for the last almost 3 months, these metrics. And I do appreciate getting the data specific to these age groups and really finding out that there is a trend that we're seeing and that there is a potential opportunity. I appreciate the board members for really pushing to really break the kiddos up into a K-6 range and a 7-12 range. So I'm really happy to see that. I appreciate getting an average on those zip codes that potentially we could end up with just a slight bit off, and that could make us fall not into the metrics. I like the idea of having more of a range to give us a slight flexibility that wouldn't potentially, I mean, you can really see a trend if you look at these numbers. You can see that pretty much after, I don't want to say specific to Halloween, but as things began to really spike, you can see, you know, from October to that beginning of November, there was a dramatic change. And I would really hate to hold our students from going back by just, you know, a percentage point or one number or two. So I appreciate the average. I certainly think that I am willing to look at these metrics and use these metrics to support a K-6 going back to school for the reasons that we've talked about over the last several months. One thing, though, I would really love to see, and I encourage it, is on point number 4, where we talk about the 7 to 12 students would stay in, I know it's supposed to say hybrid because of their size for the rest of the semester. I really think that although we talked about the age group, and there's a dramatic difference, it's like 3 times the amount. I think that that puts our students and our families and just everybody in kind of a defensive posture and like an apathetic approach that we're just going to stick with the norms. So I really encourage us to actually find some metrics. We had some, they've been taken off the board, but even if they're at a higher level, because we know that our students are at a higher level of spread in that age group, I think that we really need to have kind of a positive position to be headed in the common goal that we have. So number 4 saying 7 to 12 students would just stay hybrid because of their size for the rest of the semester really doesn't give any hope. And I know that that can change. I know that we can just, it's words on a page and we can come up with a new plan pretty readily. But what I'd prefer to see is actual metrics that go along those lines, whatever those may be based on the age group being different. I think just writing that an option for the board to revisit it and bring them back after spring break, that's 3 weeks or 3 months away. I really just think that we're doing a disservice to our kids and our just to everybody, and causing this ping pong effect that we've been having within our community. I think setting a set of metrics that we feel put us in a more safe space really shows that we're trying to all reach our common goal. So those are just my comments on what I see on the paper. It's encouraging. I know that I was on a call yesterday with Oakland County Health Department with the other board presidents. They said that the numbers are fairly stable right now. They're kind of waiting to see as districts are now going back. There's a lot of K-6 that have been back either for a week or will be back after next week. So the time will tell. One thing that they did say, which I found very interesting, someone asked a question regarding the operational difficulties that they found themselves in the fall. So when they got to basically a point where it was almost operationally impossible to staff schools, and that's what forced schools to close because frankly, there just wasn't enough teachers or substitutes and they ended up having to close schools, not because of the spread in schools. And one of the comments from the Oakland County Health Department was they found that when they got to the number by district cases in the zip code, that when they got to the number between 30 and 40 was when they actually found those operational difficulties in keeping schools open, which you can see follows the trend. It looks like October 29th to November 11th, they were in the 37.4. And by the following week, we know that many schools had completely closed and quarantined buildings and had at that point, almost, we were at the point of the end, the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services actually closing down high school altogether. So I think that that's an accurate depiction of what they've seen in the past throughout this school year, that when they get to that 30 to 40 by district case per 10,000, that they start to see operational difficulties in keeping the schools open. So just another point to think about and to look at as we hopefully trend in the right direction. Those are my comments. Anybody else? Mr. Cook?
Yes, I agree with what you've been saying, and the ultimate goal for everybody here is to get all students back full time. That would be the optimum thing to do. So yes, on point number 4 for the 7 to 12, I think we need to come up with a metric of when it would be safe to get those guys back. Because yeah, there are more students in one building, but if you look at the square footage of the building and the density at that point, I imagine you'd find it very similar to what the elementary schools are, you know, people per square foot. So, you know, that's I think we should come up with a metric of getting those guys back. My concern is, you know, point 3, if we go above a certain point for 3 consecutive weeks, if you look at the way the data has been trending and the way it goes up and down, if we hit that case, then I have a feeling we'd be chasing our tail. So it may be, you know, having those numbers up 3 consecutive weeks might be a little bit long. 2 consecutive weeks might be better, but you know, it's hopefully we don't get to that point where it goes back up. The thing that kind of really struck me was the you know, getting the K6 back, and then the February 17th date. In order to hit that February 17th date, all 3 numbers pretty much have to be below their target next week. And if they're not, then that February 17th date is out the window, according to these numbers. So I was a little shocked that we did put a date on it. Great to hear we're optimistic, but we've been burned by a date before. So averaging the zip codes, you know, that takes some of those higher populated. It takes the higher populated zip code that primarily does not go to our district, but a few students do, and average it, and you know, waters that down a little for us to help us. But this is in the direction I think we need to go. I think, yeah, more than one data point. We give a number where we need to be to get back to school. We have a number where if we get above that, we have to step back and say, hey, we're going back to hybrid. But I think the biggest thing is getting everybody back to school. So.
Thank you, Mr. Cook. Mr. Mena? You're on mute. Sorry.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I'm just excited to see any talk about bringing kids back full time. I know we had an email from a teacher talking about maybe kicking around some ideas about piloting, you know, some classes. I suspect that's possible. I don't know if that's something that we look to do, but you know, I don't have a crystal ball, but I suspect that if we did bring K6 kids in like other districts are doing, that we would eventually build a pretty good comfort level. And I'm not really sure to what extent some of these other metrics that are outside of our district will really matter at that point. So I know that remains to be seen, but that's sort of my gut feeling at this point.
Thank you, Mr. Mena. Mrs. Hood?
Yeah, thank you. I'm looking at the numbers of kids in the virtual and hybrid plans now per school. And I don't see page numbers on here, so I can't tell you, but it's the grid with the high school and then our virtual and hybrid. So if we look at the hybrid kids at Orchard Hills, we have got 166 kids, and half of that is what, 83? So is it correct to say that on a typical A or B day, we've got 83 kids? If everybody, all the kids show up, we've got 83 kids in our school.
You're on mute, Dr. Matthews.
Sorry. Yes.
Okay. And so certainly we only have 45% of our teachers there. So if we were to have all of the kids in class, 166, have you done any look at how many students would be in each class? So are we approaching 20 kids, 25 kids per class if we do the full time?
Yes, we would be. Many of our classes would be at typical levels. Some of that we have each year. The K2 or K1, possibly K2 are a little smaller than the 3-4, but they would be typical. Some of those class sizes would be at or slightly above contractual limits as well, because this year, as we divided into hybrid classes, we knew that half of them would only half of them would be there each day. And so, if you had a first grade class, for example, and you had 26 kids in a hybrid class, only 13 of them would be there on Monday and 13 would be there on Tuesday. And so that works well. But if you bring them all back, that would be a class of 26. And so tomorrow we're having an administrative meeting, and one of the tasks I'm giving the administrators tomorrow will be to go through every hybrid class they have and identify for me exactly what those hybrid or those classrooms would be if we brought back both the hybrid A and the hybrid B together. What are all the class sizes that we would have? And I'm going to ask the principals K through 12 to do that for all of their classes, so that I can provide that information to the board hopefully next week, so that you can see what all those classrooms would look like.
Okay, and then I have a second question. So I asked this at our last meeting, and that was the status of vaccinations for our teachers. And when I say teachers, I mean everyone in all adults in our schools. Is there, I don't want to ask if there's a plan, but can you speak to that?
Yes.
And I will say, I just want to make kind of an associated statement with that, because kind of the fringe comments that we get is, oh, the teachers they don't want full classrooms. I can't speak for teachers, but the ones I speak to, nobody wants to be back in front of a full class more than our teachers. And when, most of us who are employed, our employers, if we can work from home, they say, please don't come in. Please don't come in. We don't want you, and you're not allowed to come in. And we can't do that for our teachers. They have to be, unless they're virtual, they have to be in the classroom. And so can you speak to the plan, whether it's at a district level or the county level, to get our teachers vaccinated?
Yes, I can. And I was on a phone call today with Oakland County Health. I've been on multiple phone calls with Oakland County Health, and what the plan is that it's by gosh and by golly. There is no plan. Teachers sign up. They get teachers are 1B. They're not 1A. So the priority list is generated, and the first group is the 1A group, the healthcare workers and that group. The second priority list is the 1B group, and I don't live in Oakland County, so I've tried 4 different places. I've tried the county I live in. I tried Oakland County. I've tried the hospital close to me. I tried the hospital in Oakland County, and all I get is all the appointments are full. And so we asked Oakland County today if they're tracking the number vaccinations of teachers by district, and they said they are not. What they say is they generate a list of the 1B people, and then they go through that list when they have vaccination appointments, and they send out those appointments, and it's first come, kind of first served. They have not identified any way to prioritize school workers, and so how many of our staff have been vaccinated? I do not know. There is no master list that we have. The Novi Education Association is kind of asking teachers to keep them informed, but certainly that is a health data point for teachers, and they're not required to share that. And it's very disappointing to me that teachers are not a higher priority, and it doesn't appear that we're going to be a higher priority anytime soon. And so, for example, it was said today that this weekend there's a vaccination site at Suburban Collection, and that they have 3,000 doses. They said many of those doses will be going to school personnel, but I signed up every day in Oakland County through their list, and I'm not one of the ones who got asked to come to Suburban Collection in Novi on Saturday to get a shot. And so it's, I don't know what to say. The recommendation that I'm making is not based on our teachers getting vaccinated. The recommendation I'm making is based on what I believe the data suggests, is that K-6 students are not at high risk, and that would not place our teachers at high risk. But it's just very frustrating, the whole vaccination rollout at this point. I don't know if Dr. Kinzer has any more insight on any of that than I do.
I would only add that in conversation with Heather Burnside today, she really echoes the sentiments that Dr. Matthews just shared, that she is hearing from many of our teachers frustration with their inability to access the vaccine. And we're hopeful and optimistic that maybe that we'll see growth, but we've seen no evidence of that in availability. So I think that the conversations I've had with Heather really echo what Dr. Matthews just said.
And I would say, speaking, Kathy, on that question around vaccination, it goes way beyond teachers, right? It's our principals, our noon aides, our bus drivers, and so on. But what I can say is that my whole team is going to be getting vaccinated. As far as the Office of Academics team this weekend, I'm not sure about how many building principals were able to get in. And that was just, luck, as Dr. Matthews said. That was a really astute team member who communicated with us early on an AM morning and just said, you should jump on because here it goes. And that's perhaps one of the metrics to think about as well, I suppose, is the fact that, the consequences that occur for the people who serve our kids are also very real. And I appreciate you bringing that question up, because when I am around the district, and also I've shared with the board that unfortunately I contracted COVID in December. It compromised myself, my entire family. Thank goodness nobody really went down with it, so to speak. But this whole thing, we've lost 408,000 people as of today, 408,000. And how it impacts people. Dr. Matthews is in quarantine right now. And I'm glad to see you drinking Gatorade, Steve, because keeping hydrated is important. But I'm nervous for you, because we don't know how this impacts individuals. It's so random in how it hits people. And I appreciate Dr. Matthews doing his best and the board trying to do their best to figure this out. But in totality, as we ask these questions, what is the true impact on our community? Our community.
I see, Mrs. Hood, I know you might not be done, but Mrs. Murphy is like really waving her hand over there. I think she has something to add.
Sorry, I just wanted to say, so I'm back in practice, so I'm considered a healthcare worker right now. Not able to get a vaccine. They're not prioritizing anything. And I think the tricky thing too is that some counties actually they've already moved into like whatever, like their phase 4. They've already vaccinated all of their healthcare workers and all their teachers. And like, so I don't really understand, quite honestly, why some can appear to be so efficient in doing that. It's not like they're rural districts either that have moved into that. So, but I would encourage all of our teachers to, if they don't live in this county, in Oakland County, they need to get on the other counties' websites and start signing up. And then Meyer, they have a sign up as well that I found out about today. You have to be somebody that uses their pharmacy, but they also have a sign up going on. So there's just no rhyme or reason to it. And there's like I said, there's really no accessibility. I've gone on it like 15 times, still not able to break through. So I don't think there's any rhyme or reason to it. So I don't think there's I don't think we should expect that we'll have 100% of our staff that work directly with children vaccinated at any point in time before the end of the school year.
I would agree with that sentiment exactly. And, you know, and the goal really is to find ways to do this safely. You know, the thing I'm proud of is that we have created a safe environment for our students and our staff this year. I think our staff feel safe. I think our students feel safe. We have not had major outbreaks in the schools. You know, just this past week was the first school-to-school transmission that we believe happened over the course of this year. And one of the reasons for that is because that we've been safe. And so, you know, does it concern me to think about bringing K-6 students back? Yes, it does. But on the other hand, the evidence suggests that the impact on those age groups is not significant. And so I think, you know, everything's a calculated risk. I cannot honestly say that there is no risk. It's a calculated risk. The evidence suggests that those K-6 students, the transmission does not happen, that the cases are very low, and that those would be safe. You know, the evidence suggests that it's a higher percentage of students in 7 through 12 that get COVID and transmit COVID. But even at that level, you know, there may be a threshold that it would be safe to bring our students back. Part of it is, you know, even though our high school and middle school are bigger facilities, the classrooms that our students are in are still the 900 square foot rooms. It's not as if the classrooms at the high school and middle school are double the size of the elementary size classroom. In fact, some of our elementary size classrooms are probably bigger than the classrooms at the middle and the high school. And so just because the physical facility at the high school is 500,000 square feet, it doesn't mean that the 55-minute period that the students and the teachers are in a room together is larger than the elementary size classrooms. And so, you know, I think that we have to keep that in mind as well. So, you know, this is just kind of a starting point for our conversation. We'll come back on the 4th. We'll have more data for you on the 4th. You know, that new variant that's been found in Washtenaw County, you know, is that all of a sudden going to take off? You know, one of the things about Michigan is that the numbers have been very, very good when you're compared to some other states. And why is that? You know, we haven't been going to restaurants. We haven't been doing some of the things that we normally do. And so, you know, all of a sudden, February 1st, you know, restaurants are going to be back open. And so is that going to start to impact us again? You know, these are all things that I don't have the answer to. What I do know is that we are working as hard as we can to educate the students in our district to the best of our ability.
Thank you, Dr. Matthews. Droney?
I agree with you, Danielle, on the you know, 7 through 12. I am grateful to all of you that have worked hard on the K through 6. I think that's something wonderful if the numbers stay there that, you know, we'll be able to do. And one tip on vaccinations, my mother, you know, she's part of, and I'm sure most of you are, you're in some type of like, you know, hospital, like whether it be Henry Ford or the Ascension, you know, healthcare system. When you sign up to get like your testing, your data, you know, like with Henry Ford, it's called My Chart. They send out, when they know they're going to get, say, a batch of 1,000 vaccines, they will send out to, 3,000 people, you can sign up for a vaccine. So if you're part of any of those programs, like I am with Providence Ascension, if you watch your email, you will get an email saying that, hey, you can get a vaccine. So there's just another little tip there. Unfortunately, my mom has, gotten a lot of tests, so I've learned these little tips. But so that's another little tip. But I commend you guys on all your hard work that everybody is doing, because we all want the same end result is get the students back 5 days a week, hopefully before fall. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Roney. Thank you, Mrs. Roney. Yes, I agree. I talked to a teacher yesterday, and I think she said, some of her teacher friends just can't get in. I really, really, really encourage them to go on oaklandcounty.gov. They have that. It's not a sign up. It's like kind of like a wait list. So because they're not going to come knocking on our door or on people's door and say, here's your vaccine. You got to get on every list you can. It's kind of like winning the lottery. And unfortunately, the vaccine rollout is not been as robust as we had hoped, but I think that there potentially are opportunities and, this for those who choose to be vaccinated, I believe that I'm optimistic that that will continue to progress on a weekly basis. Mr. Smith, you have your mic off, so I'm wondering if you're ready to give feedback.
Yeah, thanks. I just had a quick question for Dr. Matthews or Dr. Weber, I think. Are you guys, or is the cabinet considering or giving any thought to increasing the amount of FaceTime for our hybrid kids by, let's say, going back to an alternating Wednesday schedule? Or is all of that off the table and it's going to be, Tuesday, Friday, Monday, Thursday, or nothing? Like it's going to be 2 days, or we'll get to 5 days. But because I kept hearing that Tom wants 5 days every day, and that's not it. Tom just wants more kids in school more often. So is there any other option that you guys are considering? Have you guys, have any of you thought, gosh, maybe we could bring everybody back on February 17th? I mean, are we still light years away? Are we getting any closer to us thinking we can pull this off?
We continue to examine ways to increase the amount of FaceTime that our students have in person. And the reason that I proposed in this presentation this evening for the K-6 is because it appears that the transmission rates and the infection rates for K-6 students are significantly lower than for the 7-12 students. But having said that, we continue to work with our principals, weekly to try to ask those questions about, are there ways, to bring back our hybrid students, to give them one more day a week of face-to-face time. And so, we're continuing to examine those ideas. Is it, do you do a half a day? We just don't know. But nothing is off the table, and we continue to try to find ways to increase that FaceTime. Hopefully, to the point where we could bring those 7-12 students back full time. But if we can't, maybe there are some other ways that we could increase that FaceTime, that in-person time for those students.
I think, to Dr. Matthews and Tom, to that, in talking to our teachers and our principals, the idea, Tom, where I think you're going is this notion of somehow Wednesdays alternating, bringing kids in and so on. And what we've talked about with staff is just a gap in time and sequencing that can happen and how the rhythm would get off. I wouldn't have any problem with somebody saying RJ wants kids back 5 days a week, because I do. It's that simple. I also know 408,000 people are dead. I also know that this is real. And what we want to do is to do everything we can to do it as safely as possible, which is the pickle you're all in and we're all in right now. But Tom, we have asked that question. Actually, I think it came from a board meeting prior, Steve, to Christmas. And we went back and talked to our principals about that, I think 2 days after. And really what it came down to is that idea of, so you bring kids in on a Wednesday and then the next group in on a Wednesday, and you've got these kind of delays and gaps. And that was the issue, Doc. I think that's what we talked about when we talked with our principals. And then the other piece on this whole conversation to think about, I don't know if Dr. Kinzer would want to speak to this at all, is the notion of staffing and being ready. There's a pretty powerful article from, I think, a superintendent in Indiana, Steve, in the New York Times maybe, about how the issue that they're having really is who's going to teach their kids, because the 14-day quarantine, when the positives go through, and the shortage of teachers and substitute teachers. So perhaps one of the things I know Dr. Kinzer has done is went towards trying to get more full-time substitute teachers. But I believe the restrictions have been reduced significantly. So maybe part of the community help here is parents who are that deeply concerned about wanting to have their kids in school would want to sign up and become substitute teachers. Maybe, I don't know. Dr. Kinzer?
I do want to comment on, the fact that we do have districts who are in the process of, as Dr. Matthews shared, returning to near full-time or full-time instruction for significant groups of students. And I think paying close attention to how that goes in neighboring districts is really important, because I do worry about the ability to maintain staffing levels once we're in a situation where social distancing isn't possible. So I think whatever information we're able to gain from neighboring districts in the next 2 weeks will be really important.
Ronnie,
I think
go
she
ahead.
said Mrs. Ronnie.
Yeah, I did.
Okay. Just real quick, I believe my old school system, Utica Community Schools, has the kids back in full-time, I think pretty much, K through 12. Not 100% sure, but I believe they are. So that may be somebody to look at.
Thank you.
And I on a fairly regular basis, reach out to my Oakland County colleagues and to Mary Kay Gallagher in Northville, to try to sort this through. And we really, the goal is to get kids back. We believe that we are providing quality instruction. I talked to teachers over the past week that are very committed to providing that quality instruction. They feel that things are going well with their instructional practice this year, that students are learning, that the outcomes they're seeing are positive. We know that there obviously is an impact because kids aren't in school 5 days a week, but teachers have created great processes for these students to learn well. And so we think that it is occurring, but the goal, as Dr. Weber said, as Dr. Kinzer said, as Mr. McIntyre, all of us have talked about, is how do we make sure that we can find a way to get our kids back 5 days a week? And that's what we're really working towards. So this is one proposal. I think on February 4th, we'll come back, have 2 more weeks of data. We'll be able to talk through it. We'll give the board a final recommendation on the metrics that night. But starting tomorrow, I'm having the conversation with our administrative staff that we're kind of targeting that February 17th date, and to see if we can make that work. And we'll get the numbers to the board about what those hybrid classes would look like. And we'll kind of move forward planning that's the target date. If we need to adjust that target date, I'm more than willing to try to adjust that target date. But I think for K6, that's a reasonable target date for us to aim for.
Thank you, Dr. Matthews. I just have one comment, Tom, and then I'll let you go. But I do really think that it's imperative that we, as you pointed out, that these metrics come back to us for like a final approval, because ultimately we can arbitrarily sit here and go back and forth. And is it going to be good? And is that date going to work? Are we going to push the date out? Are we going to move the date forward? What are we going to do for our 7/12? What's the date? But once we really have metrics in place, with probably the K6 metrics being a little bit lower because we know that the spread is less, then we're actually using the science and the data to make decisions. And really it's going to help us to really have some determination. And I think we've talked through the metrics quite a bit for 2.5 months. And we found a place where Mr. Cook feels comfortable and is smiling. And I'm only pointing you out because I really do appreciate you pushing this envelope about these metrics and really trying to find something that people can have as tangibles that we can all turn to and say, yeah, that February 17th date is going to work because we're falling within these reasonable, no guarantee of safety, but reasonable measures that we have determined are going to be our return. So I think that that's really important, that we kind of get to a point that we can approve these metrics. And because, as you pointed out, with the transition time that's going to be needed, if we keep pushing that out, then we keep pushing everything out. And we may find that we don't get to these metrics in February. I mean, my hope is, and my optimism is, that with all these different factors that we will, but there are no guarantees. So, Mr. Smith, sorry to cut you off.
Oh, no, you were fine. I just had a follow-up request of Dr. Matthews' office. It was something I thought about today. I got the message from Principal Carter, that grades are coming out at the end of the semester. I also, I want to recognize you guys. I try honestly not to be selfish with some of my questions or intentions, but having 2 of my 3 children at our high school, it's obviously near and dear to me. And I've been watching the homework, and they're both hybrid, and I see how it goes. And we have, a week like this week where they'll have, 1 day in school. And I'm just telling you guys that every single day matters. When they lose a day, it's a big deal. That's why, by my lonely, I was advocating. It turns out it didn't matter, but I didn't want the kids to lose those 3 days at Christmas break. But every day that they can get, or every hour, would be helpful. So my request is, if I can, and if you guys want to go offline with just me, that's fine. I don't know if any other board members have an interest in this, but as our grades are coming out at the high school and probably the other schools, I'm curious to see how are our kids doing. I just know from talking to, my own, that I'll leave off the call so I don't get scolded by anybody again. So I just know that it's hard. It's hard for some of these kids to be motivated. It's hard for them for that first hour, to roll out of the sack and get to where they need to be. So if I heard from the cabinet that, hey, our grades are in, and what we're finding is that with the virtual and the hybrid kids, there's really not been any slippage, and our grade point average was 3.8, and now it's 3.65, which is acceptable, blah, blah, blah. But I'm looking for some kind of feedback now that the grades are coming out.
Tom, I would say I'm not worried about grades. I'm worried about the well-being of our kids. Well, the fact of the matter is that when we, in our team, our principals, our counselors, you saw Sarah Leppert here tonight, are analyzing these pieces, and we definitely have seen an increase in D's and in lower grades because of what you just said, that whole executive functioning piece of motivation, right? When we're not able to be with our kids and help them and show them the way of how to do that, they struggle. So that's definitely there. But I would argue the metrics that we, that we are already, and Steve talks to principals and kids all the time, our principals and teachers do. But, the mental well-being of our children, just as we're feeling it, imagine how they're feeling without the adult years behind them that we all have to know that this too shall pass and we'll make it through. We're deeply worried about our kids, but we're also worried about kids like my own son, who had to lose 3 weeks of schooling because his dad had COVID. I mean, that's a reality. that when these things spread, that we lose significant amounts of time to instruction, and not only instruction, you know, many of our families out there, school is the only outlet that their kid has. Maybe they have an only child. So please know, I want to make sure that you can leave this meeting, Tom, knowing, and again, this goes back to President Ruskin's point, that that we are constantly looking and wondering about this and how we support our children. On February 16th, we have Easter SEALs coming in for half a day, and they'll be training all of our 7th and through 12th grade staff, including secretaries, including bus drivers, on issues of trauma and how this pandemic is impacting our children and our adults. And one of the things, Tom, about you is I've always believed that your questions come from a place of love and concern for kids, as the rest of the board members. So thank you for that.
I want to close by thanking you, RJ, for, you know, your concern and awareness with regards to mental health. And, you know, I know that's harder to measure, but I definitely believe, and I would go out and say that I know that it's having a negative impact on the kids' mental health as well. So as you're weighing this impact of, I grow weary sometimes of hearing this phrase, we want to bring everybody back safely, because of my beliefs on, you know, the mortality and morbidity rates and all this. But I know the larger concern is we have to clear out whole classrooms and multiple classrooms, and then everyone misses school. But I got a, is it okay if I share your text message from earlier? One about your friend? Oh, okay. So, you know, I was just talking to one of my kids that's over my shoulder, and it's real, you guys, you know, and some of these kids have some bad days. And I just think the sooner we can get everybody back to a better social function, and it'll just be good for everybody. So anyway.
Yep. I think we all agree with that, Tom.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Thank you, Mr. Smith. I appreciate that conversation. And I think that, you know, RJ's point, and to your point, the mental health, it's a balance. I think in regards to your question regarding the grades, no ill harm in putting academics above, you know, wellness, as we all try and balance that. I think that, you know, sometimes there's a misconception out there of things are being done to cover up bad grades, or people are failing. And so I really do believe that that's where your question kind of came from, or really was evolving from. And I think it would be helpful, you know, even if we do see that our kiddos are maybe not doing as well as they have, it doesn't mean we're failing them educationally. It means that their mental wellness, all these different things that they're trying to balance, are having an impact. So I do think it's important to get that data and to really see how our kiddos really doing academically, knowing that there's a whole nother side to whole child wellness, and there's a whole mental piece that we can't measure. I mean, we can hear anecdotal pieces and really have an understanding, but we can't measure that.
Yep. I shared that data at the end of first quarter with the board, and so we can certainly share that data at the end of first semester as well.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions, Mr. Cook, please? Mr. Cook.
Yeah, I want to, you know, thank administration for all the work they've been doing on this, the teachers for all the work they've been doing, but I also want to thank all the parents. Parents have had to go above and beyond, trying to get kids onto Zoom meetings, get them up so that they're doing their work. Not all parents are successful in doing it, but they're trying their hardest. And, you know, I feel bad for the kids whose both parents have to go to work and they have to get themselves up and get online and on time. And they're not always successful in doing that. But we're laying a lot of adult responsibilities on some very young kids. So, you know, the kids, the parents, for having gotten this far through the school year the way we've had to do it is hats off to all of them, and it's not going unnoticed. I just want to say that.
Thank you, Mr. Cook, for your comments. Thank you, Mr. Cook, for your comments. Any other specifics to this? Welcome back, Mr. Mena. I know that you'll watch the video and see what you missed. We appreciate you coming back online after your other obligations. So, okay. So seeing no other comments in regards to this, we'll look forward to our February 4th meeting and having some action items potentially in the metrics department to vote on as a board to kind of just have some data guidance.
Yep.
Okay. So next up, we have our committee reports. I know that we only had the curriculum committee meet. Mrs. Roney, I know that we had a big presentation today about a lot of what you talked about. So if you have anything to add or a report, that would be great.
I really don't have anything to add. I mean, they went over everything. I think it's a wonderful opportunity for us. Willie, I don't know if you have anything to add, but I'll keep it short and sweet.
Me keep it short and sweet. No, I think, again, we really just spoke about what we presented today. And then I think took it a step further today than we did in an actual committee meeting. So thanks for that.
Thank you for that report, and I can see a lot of work is being done behind the scenes, so appreciate all that's being done. Next, we have our second opportunity for comments from the audience. Again, these are via Google Form, 2-minute time limit. Do we have any further comments, Dr. Matthews?
We do. We have about 6 comments.
Okay.
The first is from Tia Marie Sanders. As a founding member of the Novi Northville Racial Awareness Accountability and Action Group, I had the pleasure and the opportunity to meet with the NCSD DEI committee this past week to further discuss how we can strategize for racial equity in Novi schools. I'm excited about the work all the members of the DEI committee are doing. I'm pleased that Dr. Matthews, Dr. Weber, Ms. Carter, and Dr. Jordan, Dr. O'Feely, Mr. Kinzer, President Ruskin, Trustee Murphy, and Trustee Smith have all expressed their desire to address racial equity in the school district from their classrooms, building, and positions of leadership. We need you. If there are any parents, students, or teachers who want to join this work, please reach out to the Novi Community School District DEI Committee and lend your talents to the team. I believe the Novi Community School District is perfectly positioned to be a leader in Oakland County and Michigan for its thoughtful example of how to shift the experiences of Black students and in turn make the experiences of all children in Novi memorable and rewarding. I shared with the DEI and some of the board members that the partnership I imagined 15 years ago is now actually coming to a beautiful start. I'm overwhelmed to see all the support from the Novi Community School District towards racial equity. Keep pressing, keep trying, stay the course, even when it is hard and others oppose your efforts. Know that I am a representative of some voices in the Black community and all are watching and hoping you keep our children safe and value their experiences. Together we can and we will do this life-changing work. Next comment is from Sharon Canais. Dear school board and administrators, please wait until the teachers have had both vaccines before bringing staff and students back to school in person full time. There is the concern of exposure to others, students, co-teachers, other support staff in the classroom, but also in the restrooms, which have very little ventilation. Aerosol coronavirus can remain in the air for up to 3 hours, according to the Harvard Medical School research. So it's quite possible for staff to inhale aerosol particles while in the restrooms. We do not have access to N95 masks that would block those particles. Next comment is from Paula Henry. My name is Paula Henry, and I'm the president of PASSN, Parents of African American Students in Novi, that was organized in 2006 due to the lack of support for African American students in the district during the time. It was necessary to create a group to support Black students in the district, and the need is still relevant, even more so now. I'm the proud parent of 2 Novi alumni, one from the class of 2020 and 2016, who I will shamelessly plug, that received a full academic scholarship and has graduated from Oakland University with a degree in political science and communication. This was due to the wonderful education received from the Novi Community School District. We've been in the district for 10 years, and unfortunately not much has changed since 2006, but I am encouraged with the formation of the DEI, which consists of Novi educators, that the time for a change is now. After meeting with the DEI committee this week, I feel a sense and pray that better days are coming. The fantastic and dynamic educators on the DEI committee are passionate, committed, and to be commended for their commitment to improving their own practice in their own classrooms and wanting to take on leadership roles to support other teachers across other buildings in Novi. The committee consists of teachers from different contents and grade bands who want to see change as it relates to diversity, equity, and inclusion. What a huge opportunity for Novi to be the forerunners of creating this type of environment in our schools. Why not be the school district that districts reach out to, asking you how you do it, and you can train our school district. That is what I, as an alumni parent of 2 Novi graduates, wants to see happen in the district that educated my children. I would like to give the board a huge shout out for adding the DEI to the agenda for discussion. This means that we are moving in the right direction. The DEI committee is absolutely necessary and will benefit all of Novi students. We are very grateful and eager to work alongside the board and administration. Next comment is from Cindy Senator. First, I would like to thank all of you for all you've been doing through this difficult time and keeping families informed and up to date on the Novi Community School District education plans and protocols. However, I am concerned about the lack of plans for kids going back to in-person at the middle and high school level. I understand there's no plan to bring back grades 7 to 12 for 5 days a week instruction. As of March 2020, our student body as a whole has not gotten an adequate education due to the pandemic. As more information has come out and guidelines have been designated, we have not seen improvements in the efforts to get the student body back into the classroom in a reasonable level. I understand that some people are still fearful of the disease, but others are not. At what price are we putting our kids' education and well-being on the line? Other states, counties, and cities across the nation are back to school. Our kids are competing with these students to be accepted into colleges and programs of expertise that will not happen if they're not on an even playing field. We must do better as a district to advance forward and give our kids an education that they deserve and, quite frankly, we paid for with our tax dollars. People move here to Novi for the schools. I would expect our district to excel and advance past fear and panic, to set an example of how to successfully maneuver through these barriers and give our kids the education they've come to expect from Novi. Whether it's adding real estate for social distancing, additional cleaning, or ventilation air systems, I feel like we should be thinking more out of the box. I can fly on a plane, work out in a gym, or shop at a crowded department store, then I expect my kids to be able to attend school. It is not acceptable to keep kids home with this non-conducive schedule and poor learning environment. Please consider further the future of our kids and the long-lasting impact it has on their well-being. I understand we're navigating through uncharted waters, but those who are brave will weather the storm. In order to be successful in life, you have to take some risk. Without risk, you are accepting mediocrity. The next comment is from Laura Green. I teach hybrid at the elementary level. I have 22 students combined between my 2 groups. I can say that it will not be possible to keep students seated at least 3 feet apart with that size of class. Also, isn't it negligent to move to 5 days a week until we can at least ensure that our teachers have received their vaccine? Currently at 6 feet apart, I am barely maintaining 14 students 6 feet apart. I think the district should consider waiting until teachers have been vaccinated before moving to 5 days a week. Next comment is from Kathy Sidarsky. Good evening, everyone. I want to first say that despite my frustration with the current Novi learning plan and the lack of planning on how to get our children back in school full time, I do have much respect for you. Some of the comments earlier were harsh and unnecessary. With that being said, I do believe that the board, with the exception of Mr. Smith and Mr. Mena, are truly failing to hear what parents are saying and what the children are in dire need of, which is in-person learning. The hybrid model is not working. I sent an email earlier this week that the data you're using for our school district from Oakland County is skewed by using population data from 2010, and I'm even more concerned that to find some skewed data being used in return to the full-time school plan in this week's agenda recommendation 3B, especially after Dr. Matthews responded that he was aware. The board needs to step up and make the right decision. There should have been a plan to return full-time from the beginning. A great leader would have created a plan within a plan. You're now failing our children at this point. And comment 24, the last comment, is from Jody Payne. Teachers are receiving their first dose of vaccination are now being told that since they're getting the Moderna vaccine rather than the originally planned Pfizer vaccine, that their second appointment must now be 28 days later instead of the 21 days later with the Pfizer. Unfortunately, when they signed up for the vaccination, they were told to make the second appointment 21 days later. Since there are now no additional appointments available, they are getting their first dose and will not be able to get their second dose. They're being told their second appointment, if it's not within 28 days later, will be canceled. Having one group go every other Wednesday will create a nightmare for hybrid teachers trying to keep the two groups in sync. You would be far better off having them come in every other day, which would be a nightmare for childcare. Why not pilot a return to school 4 days a week, Wednesday still virtual, to allow for more cleaning, with teachers who are willing to return at the K-6 level. That way you can find out what the problems with the return will be with only a smaller number of classes rather than every hybrid returning at the same time, and we go in blind with no clue what to expect. Since no authority has a clue what the metrics should be for return, hinging return on metrics is simply creating less stability and more confusion. Hybrid teachers need to know whether or not we need to start removing parts of our unit, which will be necessary if we keep going 2 days a week in person. Once we skip that material, it won't be feasible to then go back later if we have more days. If the board cannot make a decision, then just make the decision to go just 2 days in person the rest of the year so we can plan accordingly. It's ridiculous to continue to ask hybrid teachers to build the plane while they're flying it. We need a decision so we can plan forward. And those are all the comments this evening, Dr. Ruskin.
Thank you, Dr. Matthews, and thank you for the comments from the community. We always appreciate hearing from you. Okay, next we have the superintendent's report. It's your turn again, Dr. Matthews.
I do not have a superintendent's report. You have heard more than enough from me this evening.
Thank you. Administrative reports, we will start with Mr. McIntyre.
First of all, I want to thank the board for approving the Plan Moran audit contract. Thank you so much for that. And then the second thing, we had the consensus revenue estimating conference last Friday, and some of the experts online, the economists, had some mixed views, but again, we got propped up by federal funds last year, and we can expect the same thing for this fiscal year as well. We do expect a small increase in foundation allowance for the next school year, so that's some positive news. And a couple of things that I always look at, light vehicle sales, they've started to pick back up again, and housing starts are picking up again too. So I'm expecting some good things out of the economy, but we still are going to be propped up by federal funds coming into the state and the district as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McIntyre, for your report tonight. You probably can't hear me. Can you hear me? There you go. Thank you, Mr. McIntyre, for your report tonight. Dr. Kinzer?
Thank you, Dr. Ruskin. Just two things. First, I want to let you all know that the fourth session of our Mentee Monday series of professional development for our new teachers will be on Monday, February 1st. Darby Hoppenstedt, our MTSS coordinator, will present to our new teachers both presentation of our MTSS program in our traditional times, typical times, as well as modifications that we've made to meet the needs of our students this year. So that will be virtual on the afternoon of the 1st. Second, I want to take the opportunity to thank bargaining group leadership in all of our bargaining groups. The collaborative relationships that we have really have served us well over time, but in particular are serving us well this year. The ability to have meaningful, regular conversation with Grant Dalton, who is our MEA UniServe director, as well as our bargaining group leadership across the district, is critical and is what is allowing us to function effectively as we deal with these very challenging times. So I think it's important to recognize their efforts. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kinzer. Next, we have a report from Dr. Weber.
Hey, hope everyone's doing well out there. Want to just a couple things. First, the 27th of January is Holocaust Remembrance Day, and that is the 76th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz. And, you know, as we have talked about DEI and we've talked about these pieces and we've talked about humanity this evening throughout this board meeting, I think it's important to never, ever forget what has happened to people in the past and whatever we can do to help prevent that from the future, and how critically important it is to indeed take a stand and advocate for those in this world, everyone in this world, because really happiness is a birthright, and it doesn't matter who you are or where you're born. So that's Holocaust Remembrance Day, January 27th. And I just want to point that out. And then I'm just going to list a few names here. And this is important to me. This won't take too long. But the names I'm going to list are people who have really been integral in the day-to-day. You know, Dr. Matthews will be meeting with all of these people that I'm naming tomorrow as we discuss what we discussed at the board meeting tonight. And these are the people who will be providing critical feedback to Steve, helping him make his decisions and helping lead our district forward. So in no particular order, these are the administrators in the district as well as the technology team: Anthony Lacricchio, Luke Edwards, Grayson Thomas, Jeff Maas, Priscilla Miller, Lisa Whiteside, Adva Ringel, Jeff Dinkelman, Darby Hoppenstedt, Shaylee Patel, Stacy Theophilus, Andrew Combe, Dr. Alex O'Feely, Pam Quiddiquit, David Asher, Laura Carino, Julie Bedford, John Brickey, Lisa Fenchel, Robert Baker, Angie Southworth, Nicole Carter, Katie Dinkelman, Ron Kane, Dr. Melissa Jordan, Brian Gordon, our athletic director. You want to talk about crazy? His year, you're in, you're out, you're in, you're out. Like the kind of stuff that guy's been up against has been amazing. Melanie Rakowski, Kathy Loeffler Park. These are all folks who will help Dr. Matthews execute the will of the board and his decision. So I thank them. And then finally, I try to keep my personal life out of a lot, but I'll say I am exceptionally grateful for the people I work with and beside. We lost our father-in-law this week, and in the age of COVID, saying goodbye is very difficult. And I am very grateful for all the names I just listed off and the people who have shown my family love and respect. So thank you for that, and thank you, and have a good night. And I look forward to our meeting tomorrow, Dr. Matthews, and I'm sure it'll be quite robust in the conversation. Oh, well.
Thank you, Dr. Weber, and our condolences to you and your family. And we always appreciate the gratitude you share for everybody working behind the scenes and the operations of making things run as smoothly as possible, especially during these most challenging times. So we appreciate you and your team. Next, we have board communication. If any board members have anything specific that they'd like to share, please just give me a wave. Mr. Mena?
It'll be, as like often, a little bit athletic centric today. I had the privilege of working a couple of football games over at the Brighton Legacy Center, the Brighton Legacy Sports Complex. They were a couple of 8-man football championship games run by the MHSA. So it was nice getting out to work those, and it was also nice really taking a look at a complex. That's a fantastic complex, and I think it's something that we should probably, if the folks starting to plan our athletic complex, should probably spend some time going out there and taking a look at those facilities as well. I think we could probably get a lot of really good ideas from what they have over there. Also looking forward to basketball season if nothing changes. We should be hosting our first basketball games on Saturday, February 8th at home. I think it's the boys that'll be home first against Salem. We plan on broadcasting every one of our games that are home, whether it's boys or girls, varsity or JV, over the NFHS network, and also over our high school radio station whenever possible. So really excited about that. Also met up this week with one of our track coaches so that we can start planning for this upcoming season. And specifically, we're looking at ways that we can use our video board to kind of enhance what we do for track. So excited for that, and also excited that we hired a new football coach. I got to meet him on Monday. And I think finding coaches isn't an easy thing to do. I'm sure Mr. Kinzer can attest to that. So to find somebody who's been coaching football at another school for 19 years is a rarity. So I really think that we're fortunate. And that's all I have today.
Mr. Mena, I wanted to ask you a quick question on the pixelots. Is there an underwater pixelot for like our swim team?
There isn't an underwater pixelot, but
I'm serious. Like I'm curious about that.
But Brian and I have kicked around the idea of looking into some crazy ideas about maybe looking at if it's possible putting some underwater cameras in the pool.
That'd be cool. That'd be awesome.
So people ask, well, why would you do something like that? Well, because we can. I mean, that's really the only reason. And boy, I'll tell you, I really, and that's the one thing I really enjoy, mixing technology with athletics here in Novi is just something that I really enjoy doing, and it's just a lot of fun. So if it's possible, and it's not cost prohibitive, we'd certainly look into doing that.
I've had some swim parents wonder if that was genuinely, if that was possible, because COVID and everything else, so they could watch the kids. So I just didn't know if that was or could be a reality. And then when Mick McCabe tweets out right away that Novi hired an incredible football coach, that's a pretty good sign too.
Hey, Willie, correct me if I'm wrong, but in our conversations with the dive coach, they do put a camera in for the dive team so that they can review how they did.
They do. They have a camera that tapes the divers as they're coming down, right? That when they go in the pool, and then it's sort of delayed. So by the time they get out of the pool, they can get up to the monitor and actually watch their dive again. It's kind of a cool system they have set up.
So we're not too far from broadcasting that.
No, we'll probably look at doing something like that as well. I mean, hey, as long as we have an athletic director that lets me get involved and let me play in that area, we'll go ahead and do that, right?
Mr. Mena. And to piggyback off of Mr. Mena, I think the NFHS, the live streams that we got to watch over the weekend and last week were probably the best TV out there. So I loved watching it with my kids. It was kind of like watching the Super Bowl a little bit. It was really great to see our athletes back out there. And then in regards to that, I want to give a big shout out to our 2 school nurses, to Ashley Boontz and to Paige and Mr. Gordon. I hope I'm not forgetting anybody, but they worked extremely hard over the last couple of weeks with the pilot program of testing our fall athletes that was mandated as a program by the MHSAA so that they could get back out there and finish their fall seasons and participate in the state championship. So thanks to them, because I'm sure that was a lot of time and energy to facilitate that and make that happen. Any other comments? Mr. Smith, please.
Just real quick, I want to shout out, give one to the Novi Educational Foundation and to the work that our executive director, Jason Smith, has been doing. As all of you that serve on other boards, nonprofit groups or organizations that are attempting to raise funds in 2020, 2021, it's challenging. As many of you know, our main fundraiser every year has been our Green Gala, which is typically in March, and we're not able again to hold it in 2021. We weren't able to hold it in 2020, but yet we still have teachers that are returning in grant requests. We still have students that need scholarship money. We still have ideas from our brilliant teachers and staff that want to try different things to help better educate and get our kids a little bit more well-rounded. So I want to thank Jason for all the great work that he's done in keeping us at least close to our targets and being extremely innovative in some of our fundraising ideas, and to encourage everybody to visit the Novi Educational Foundation website. And if you can afford to give a little bit, even $5 or $10 here and there helps. You know, we don't get to do superintendent of the day, and Dr. Weber and Dr. Matthews would go in and teach in the classroom. So even the little things like that, we're not able to do. So every little bit helps. Jason's been rocking it. So thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Any other comments? Board communication? Mm-mm. Okay, seeing none, I know it's kind of late. It's 10:25, so I will ask for a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Move to adjourn. And I just want to note, Steve, it is 10:30 almost. You were off by an hour.
Support.
Recommended by Mrs. Murphy and supported by Mr. Mena. Can we get a roll call vote, please, Mr. Mena? Thanks.
Trustee Cook,
Yes.
Trustee Hood,
Yes.
Trustee Mena, yes. Trustee Murphy, Trustee Roney,
Yes.
Trustee Ruskin,
Yes.
and Trustee Smith.
Thanks, everybody.
Said yes, or we missed it. So motion carries 7-0. Good night, everybody, and we will see you soon. Thank you.